Welcome to this holiday Monday. As we join you, we come into your homes. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us right here on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and in the course of these 4 hours, I'm going to be your company. And to all our Muslim brothers and sisters, a very happy Eid to you. I hope you're having fun. Well, coming up, lined up for the show this morning, we're going to be hosting energy analyst Kojo Poku as we get into the newspapers. Of course, before that, I'll be serving you the latest in the news. But then we get into our big stories. And the Jubilee House, the seat of the presidency, has torn apart and jettisoned that Galamsey report by Professor Frimpong-Boateng, a former minister with this administration. Now, they say his report is a catalogue of grievances and hearsay. Now, what do you make of government's response? He has alleged, he has mentioned names, he has spoken to some things that he says are facts. The response from government, how do we take it? Well, we'll be teasing out the issues with some fine brains on this matter. Dr. Arthur Kennedy is a physician, political activist, and chair of the MPP's Communications Committee 2008 campaign. He'll join us for that conversation. Also on board, Professor Apia Etua. He's with the Faculty of Law at the University of Ghana, and that is what we have for you. But on the second leg of our big stories, it's a conversation with Her Excellency Simone Giga, Ambassador of Switzerland to Ghana. Now, you'd ask yourself, how long do our relations go? Are you aware that on the very day of independence, Switzerland actually acknowledged that Ghana existed on the 6th of March, 1957? There's a long, storied relationship, and this morning we'll be telling you a bit about that. But again, being a Monday, we'll serve you another installment of your favorite Drive Safe, purposely designed to keep all of us safe on the road, whether we're pedestrians or motorists. And we'll also offer you that opportunity to join us with your thoughts and views on the issues we're going to be discussing. So stay with us and let's make the most of this holiday Monday. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and up next, I serve you the news. Let's get into our first story now. And the police has arrested a police officer, Inspector Ahmed Chumesi, who is alleged to have shot and killed a female adult who was believed to be his girlfriend. The shooting incident occurred in Kumasi in the Ashanti region on Thursday, the 20th of April, 2023. Now, the suspect, who has been on the run since the incident, was arrested at Setre near Ifiduasi in the Ashanti region as a result of a special police operation which was launched following the shooting incident. The suspect also is currently in police custody and will be put before court to face justice. Now, staying in the Ashanti region, the New Patriotic Party has elected Ernest Yao Enim to contest the upcoming by-election in the Kumawu constituency. He attained 195 votes to beat his closest contestant, Amasewa, who polled 188 votes. Dr. Dacosta Abuaji polled 27 votes, while Kwame Apia Kubi and Osei Shirye Bempa shared 15 votes. Now, the elected parliamentary candidate, Ernest Yao Enim, called on all contestants to support his bid to win the Kumawu by-election.
From this moment, I dissolve my campaign team, and I'm committed to forming an inclusive campaign team that will bring together everyone from the divide so that we can collectively fight for the battle ahead of us. I know my people believe in my vision, and my vision is to bring everyone together. And I believe that as we are committed to ensuring peace, everybody following me will be shaped in line, and we would all come together and understand that this victory is not just for Ernest Yao Enim or my group, but for everybody who is a party member of our great party here. I know my people believe in me, and they are committed to ensuring that we work together as one unit. I believe that once we work as a unit, victory will be our portion. Kumawu, as we all know, is an MPP seat. And once party members are committed to ensuring that we are working together, I believe that victory would be on a silver platter for us.
Well, staying in the political arena, former President John Mahama says the 2024 general election is critical to the NDC and the party will leave no stone unturned in winning the election. According to him, its political opponents, the MPP, is already feeling jittery, a reason it has appointed some of its sympathizers to the Electoral Commission. He says the NDC remains resolute with the intention of going into the elections with its referee to ensure an undisputed defeat of the NPP. John Mahama said all of this in his address to party supporters during his Greater Accra regional campaign tour.
This election is a critical one for us. It's a do or die affair for us. And we're not going to leave any stone unturned to win this election. We don't want to cheat anybody, and we don't want anybody to cheat us. I know that the MPP is feeling jittery, and that is why they are nominating and appointing their foot soldiers to become commissioners of the EC. But like I said, we're going to be like Azuma Nelson. We're going to take our referee into the ring. When we knock them down, there's no referee who will come and say that we didn't win the election. And when coming to office, I've promised that we're going to amend the constitution. And one of the things we're going to do is that commissioners, people who are appointed to the Electoral Commission, must go through parliamentary approval. We must vet them. If we vetted these people, Dr. Pierre Hine's long record as an MPP foot soldier would have come out. And the president would have been advised to know that that is not a proper person to appoint onto the commission. Aside from that, Parliament has told the commission that if you use only the Ghana card, you're going to disenfranchise people. And yet, I don't know what stubbornness, has possessed that commission. What Beshi is in there, that all they know is Ghana card, that's it. And so they are determined to bring that same CI. When we come into office, we'll do a constitutional amendment that allows Parliament to debate and amend constitutional instruments, so that no constitutional body can just ride roughshod over Parliament. Parliament is the representatives of the people.
Now, staying with the NDC, another flag bearer hopeful, Dr. Kwabena Dufour, says cassava alone can change Ghana's economic situation within just a year. Speaking in an interview on ATL-FM during his tour of the Central Region, he said Ghana was not poor, but was in this economic situation because of bad management of the country's resources. He has been telling members of the NDC to vote for him on the 13th of May to lead the party.
You see, we are so lucky. The Creator loves Ghana. We have huge resources. If anybody tells you this country is poor, he's lying. Our natural resources, in particular, our mineral resources alone can turn this country around if we manage that particular subsector well. Gold, the other minerals. How much do you get from gold? If you look into what we call balance of payments, supposed to export $7 billion a year. How much do we get from this? How much of this touches our cash flow or comes back to Ghana? So we have the resources, young man. We are not a poor country. If we can say poor, we are poor because of the way we are managing our resources. Okay? Cassava alone can turn this country around within a year.
Within a year?
Of course, yes. Go to Nigeria. It's a Nigerian firm that has signed an agreement with an American firm. This particular Nigerian firm, by 2028, we're exporting $6.5 billion of cassava products to the U.S. market. And for cassava, We are next to Nigeria in terms of the potential or capacity, whatever. The whole world, we are number 5. We have the resources. We are not a poor country. We have the resources. I will not spend a lot of time looking at these taxes. I'll focus on the extractive sector. There we have the gold, we have the oil. You understand?
Let's now turn our attention to the Eid festivities, and Muslims in the Upper West region joined their fellow Muslims in the country to celebrate this year's Eid al-Fitr festival. They were joined by Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Saleh, who called for support for the government in the fight against illegal mining, corruption, and the integration of climate change policies in the government's plan for the region. Now, JoyNews' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam was at the Jujay Dairi Basic School Garden, where worshippers of the Ahmadiyya movement observed the congregational prayer.
2 rakat open congregational prayer of worshippers of the Ahmadiyya Muslim faith took place at the Jujay Basic School Garden. It came on the heels of the successful completion of fasting during the holy month of Ramadan, where they joined fellow Muslims from the Ummah to abstain from eating, drinking, and other social vices prohibited by Islam from dawn to dusk. Several thousands of the worshippers, the young and the old, including persons with mobility challenges, majority of whom dressed in white apparel, trooped to the gardens for the congregational prayer and sermon. The prayer was led by the Upper West Regional Missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission, Molvi Masru Muzaffar Chowdhury Ahmed. The prayer was accompanied by the sermon of the Ahmadiyya Regional Missionary, urging the worshippers not to relapse but continue with their prayers and humble supplication to Allah.
Ramadan is teaching us that when we make friendship, love with Almighty Allah, it shouldn't be a month love or some few days love. It should be a continue. So if we want to enjoy the blessings of Almighty Allah, this Ramadan is telling us that we should build our relation forever, not for some few days.
Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Saleh noted that Islam is a religion of peace, and thus the teaching of the Prophet of Islam should unite its members to advance with modernity and civilization. He assured Muslims in the country of the commitment of the government to resolving some key challenges they are facing.
The government of His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is committed to ensuring that no individual is left behind in the forward march of our country. In this vein, the government has assured Muslim leaders of its commitment to resolving matters of concern to the Muslim community, such as religious discrimination, marriage legislation, and teaching Arabic in our schools.
Dr. bin Saleh, however, is seeking for the support of Muslims to enable them to deliver on their promises and also to fight corruption.
On our part, we need your full cooperation in the battle against Galamsey and improving the well-being of our people. We must focus our regional development intervention and invest in quality education and healthcare services. We must all continue to fight against corruption and integrate climate change policies into our planning processes as a region.
Some of the congregants shared their thoughts on the holy month of Ramadan and the lessons learned.
So having gone through this exercise, it has brought us closer to our Creator. And that means we should always try as much as possible to sustain that relationship that we have had with our Creator in this month throughout the entire period of our lives. It is not a period that is isolated, which ends after the fasting. We have to sustain it.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah.
that we've come to the end of a successful fasting period. There are a lot of lessons to learn from this fasting, and I hope that the Muslim community will abide with all the things that we have learned during this fasting. This is not the first time we have been doing it, and we hope that it will have an impact in our life so that other people who are not Muslims will see that Islam is a very nice religion.
I feel light. I feel like there's a Holy Spirit living in me because I've fasted for like 30 days. So I feel light. I feel like Allah is in me. So that is the lessons I've learned, and a lot of things has changed in my life. Now I feel more close to God. My relationship with God is very tight for now. So Ramadan is very good. The 30 days is very awesome.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Well, staying there a while longer, Gaskia FM, a Joy FM affiliate in the Techiman municipality, as part of its annual Ramadan activities, has donated clothing to over 400 orphans and food items to nearly 200 widows ahead of the Eid festivities. The move, according to the general manager of the station, Mohammed Bello Nagari, forms part of the station's efforts to share love with the vulnerable in society during this festive season. There's more in this report.
For the 9th consecutive year, Gaskia FM, with support from its cherished partners, is distributing new Eid clothes to over 400 orphans and food items to nearly 200 widows. The purpose of the donations, according to the general manager of the station, Mohammed Bello Nagari, is to help those in need celebrate and enjoy the Eid celebrations, which marks the end of the month of Ramadan.
Well, we've been doing this for 9 years now. It's a deliberate plan to reach out to the poor, particularly the destitute, the orphans and the widows. It's a month of giving, it's a month of sharing. So having the platform as an institution, we brought a lot of people together. We got something from ourselves. We had to get something from beneficial donors and all that, just to come together and help these people. So we do it in order to make them happy. Because when the Ramadan is finally over and the Eid starts, we expect people to be beaming with smiles. But those who cannot afford food, who cannot afford drink, who cannot afford some of the things that will make life better for them, you have them in a sorrow situation. So to make up for that, we have to come together and help them, especially orphans.
Mohammed Bello Nagari is hopeful that the ritual will be made permanent and was quick to add that plans are far advanced to help establish a foster home to help provide support to this vulnerable group all year round.
It is an annual ritual which will be going on. We don't know when it's going to end, but we are not sure this is something that will ever end. Because orphans will still be orphans no matter what. Destitute will still be there. Widows will still be there. So we also have to help them. And we are not helping a particular widow or a particular orphan. We are helping orphans at any given time. So going forward, we are planning to build a permanent orphanage where we can house the orphans and then the destitute and widows as well.
Municipal Chief Imam of Ahlus Sunnah Wal Jama'ah, Imam Idris Suleiman, who supervised the donation exercise, appealed to guardians of these orphans to take good care of them by sending them to school and stay away from pushing them to the streets.
We are calling on Muslims to try as much as possible not living on orphans like that so that they can become criminals and so on. So many times if somebody's father or mother died and he have no any support, he usually go to WeBase where they learn so many criminal activities. So that is why I'm advising them, they should send them to school. Everyone should try to take care of his own orphan that is in your hand.
Some of these beneficiaries were thankful to the donors for the support and appealed to all to help support the vulnerable in the society.
Oh, me de aboa me pa. Te sa fi bia me ma omunya bi hye. Nti aboa me pa. First on papa ti ase de omunya bi ahye. Me sisi omuni ho de nya gaskiya de nko omunya bi hye. Nti mi de gaskiya de mi bo omo aba so papa. Na me nya omo kase enche se kra.
Djuma de ha bi bre o ho. Nso adwuma no aye. Ndi afi nkwa ne mi ba na ba ha. Nso nyame ado omo anya de mba kwose. Nti aye ebua pa nyame nhyira wo nyame mo ahonde ne si eba no mo senye sa te bua pa
Anna Sabit, Joy News, Tichiman.
Away now from the Eid, and one of the conceptions in the public domain about the Anopheles stephensi mosquito has been its ability to withstand extreme temperatures. But is that really true? In the second of our series on unraveling the Anopheles stephensi, Joy News' medical correspondent Dr. Netta Pasram looks at the insect's temperature resilience.
What time is it? 7:30. Time the Anopheles stephensi is usually out. We've already spoken about the peak biting times of the Anopheles stephensi, that is from 6 p.m. to around 9 p.m. But is it just about the peak biting time? What about temperature? We have heard that it's able to withstand high temperatures. Really?
For extreme temperature, I'm not sure we can say it is adapted to extreme temperatures. What we do know from knowledge available is the fact that it has high tolerance. I mean, the spectrum of tolerance for temperature is broader compared to that of the Anopheles gambiae. For example, it's been reported that it's able to endure temperatures about 3.4 degrees Celsius lower and higher than that of the Anopheles gambiae. So which means that if Anopheles gambiae is able to survive somewhere 16, 17 degrees Celsius, is able to go lower, 3.4 degrees lower than that. And if Anopheles gambiae is able to survive 33, 34, 35 degrees Celsius, it's capable of going 3.4 degrees Celsius above that. And so, I mean, perhaps that gives it the ability to adapt to broad conditions of temperature. And perhaps one of the reasons why it's able to invade Africa coming from.
So, protect yourself against the Anopheles stephensi mosquito by sleeping under insecticide-treated mosquito nets, wearing long clothing, making use of insect repellents, and using indoor residual spraying. For Joy News, Dr. Netta Pasram.
Well, on that health note, we wrap the news. But stay with us. Up next, we're joined by energy analyst Kojo Poku for the news review. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for joining us, for staying with us for the news review. This morning is a bare morning, and that is because none of the papers is available. But we're going to be reviewing the online portals and also focusing on some crucial matters that have taken place. Joining us for the conversation, energy analyst Kojo Poku. Kojo, I see you. Happy holiday.
How are you, my brother?
I'm very well. How about you?
I'm okay. Back at the Salah.
Barka Kadi. I didn't see that one coming. You're good. You're good. But would you like to hazard anything else in Hausa?
I'm training to be a good politician, Ben.
I see. So you're cultivating the Muslim caucus as well by way of learning a bit of Hausa. Is that it?
The Nasara base is one of my biggest base, and they love me to death.
I see. We'll be exploring that, and I'll be looking forward to what happens in that respect come election day when all of you go head to head. But let me just let you know, those of you watching, that this segment, the news review, is brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering, if you're a man, free prostate screening. If you're a woman, free female fertility screening. And here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronuma Bwehia. That's behind the Angel Educational Complex. They're in Takrady Anaji Estate. They're in Tema Community 22. They're in Techiman Hanswa and Isiama and Zema. If you'd like to call them, which you should, these are the numbers to call. 0244 867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to prostate or chronic diseases. But let me just say this. I was going to pose that question to you about your prostate, which is why prostate kept coming into the last bit about endpoint. When was the last time you checked your prostate, Kojo Poku? You can decide not to share.
Hold on. No, I'll tell you, because it's a funny thing you are. Today is what? Today is Monday?
Today's Monday.
Friday.
Friday, you did?
Yes, I did a whole, you know, the funny thing is that I have a friend who is always in my ears about doing these checkups, and I don't. And I've not been feeling very well for about a week. So, wow. I mean, I wasn't well when I went to WA. I wasn't well when I came back. And you know what? We have a senior in school who has a very good medical practice around the school junction in East Legon. Okay. And my friend said, look, you should go and see our mate and he would look after you. So I went there and he said, look, he asked me the same question. When was the last time you did a full medical checkup? And I said, look, I don't remember. He said, look, you're not leaving here until I do that. So he drew blood, he drew urine, and did a full spectrum. And it's only my pressure that's a little bit on borderline, cholesterol a little bit high, but the rest I'm 100%.
So you know your high density lipids and all of that. That's very good. So what I do is every year around my birthday, I get it done. So I let it coincide more or less with my birthday. This year I've not done that, but I just want to get certain things out of the way. Within a month, I should get that done. And of course, every time I do it, I also check my prostate because, look, you're an older man than I am, but we see that nowadays, even people in their late 20s and 30s are coming up with, flaring up with prostate issues. So I'm really happy you've done this. KSM, Kweku Sintimisa, came on the show and shared with us. He actually came partially purposely for that, to share with the world that you can work out, you can exercise, you can be fit without necessarily being healthy, because there could be a whole lot going on within your body. So I'm really happy to hear. Kudos to you that you've done that.
Health is about genetics. I think your genes play a big role in what happens to you. I think if you should know your family history. I think most people don't look at family history. Family history, in the past, in Ashanti, when you even want to go and marry into a house, they're like, oh, let's go and ask the background of the house. Not only to go and find out if there are bad people there, but to also look at, are there certain illness in the house? So every individual should know their family history. And if you know that the family has a history of diabetes, hypertension, and most of these things, then you should know you should be on a checkout for these things. And I think the education, for me, I think where the problem is the education of what the person and where the person has to go to do this. In terms of the checkout, all the medical things that you need to do, most people feel like you need to go to a hospital for something to be wrong to do that. Yeah. Okay, but clearly it's not. You can just walk into any hospital and say, look, doc, I want to do a full medical checkout. And look, it's a bit on the high side, but look, it's better than going through a year not knowing what's wrong with you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. But let's slice and dice the major issues this morning. We don't have the newspapers, but we have a lot to talk about. And I'm going to start, Kojo, from your own end, the NPP. Professor Frimpong-Boateng, former minister, has, been in the space a lot recently. And it has to do with his allegations, his claims, what he says is fact that the Jubilee House itself is mired in Galamsey, and that it knows people who are prominent within this government who are mired in Galamsey, who are polluting our environment. And he mentions names. Now, there are names that he mentions. And it's interesting because some of those people have been reacting to the comments by Professor Frimpong-Boateng. In fact, two prominent ones. And I only single them out because Professor Frimpong-Boateng has rebutted some of the assertions that these two people make. But first off, the Jubilee House, the seat of the presidency, responded by saying all of these were more of a figment of his imagination, if you like, that these were based on hearsay. And if I may just reference that point very briefly, that they are based on hearsay and that they contain a catalog of his personal grievances. That is how it is addressed. But then you get into the report, over 30 pages, some 33 to 34 plus pages, depending on which one you're looking at. It goes as high as 37. And he makes quite some interesting assertions, even going to the extent of giving photo evidence to substantiate his claims. Now, I would like to get your response on that specific matter, but also weaving in his response to the likes of Gabi Ochredako and the likes of Information Minister Kojo Ponkroma. So I'll just take that, and then you give me your very, whole view, reflection on Professor Frimpong-Boateng, the assertions in this report, why the report never became public, the response from the Jubilee House, and then the rebuttals to what Gabi and co have said. So starting with Gabi, he says, I have come across transcripts of statements made by Mr. Gabi Ochredako during an interview he had on City FM on Thursday, the 20th of April, 2023, just last week. After listening to the words of Mr. Ochredako, I became sad for Ghana. I wondered what happened to get us to this state, where a person who is supposed to be the lawyer of a mining company exhibited such industrial scale ignorance about mining laws and regulations. Going over the videos and pictures depicting the monumental environmental degradation in the areas of operation of Mr. Gabi Ochredako's clients and seeing his ignorance, I'm no longer surprised that he has such a pixelated view of the illegal mining landscape. I'll just skip and read a little bit, and then I'll go to the Kojo Ponkroma bit. Gabi Ochredako seems to have forgotten that his client has a strong history of acting with impunity. Donald Ensua, who operated both CNG Alaska and Heritage Imperial Mining Company Limited, has a history of abusing mining permits and regulations. He goes on to mention Honorable John Peter Meu, the first MPP Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, wrote to the CNG Alaska regarding the Juabo concession and directed that, quote, in view of the fact that CNG Alaska does not have a valid mining operating permit and that the ministry has not yet ratified your mining lease, you are directed, quote, not to carry out any mining operations in the concession until your mining lease has been ratified. I mean, it goes on and on. Anybody who is interested would have to read the full document. I cannot do all of that here. But then you go to the bit in response to Kojo Ponkroma, and that's much shorter. It's a one-pager, so I'll just take some points from it. He says, Dear Mr. Ponkroma, I've read your response to what I wrote about you in the report I sent to the Chief of Staff a little over 2 years ago. You have denied what I wrote, and that is normal. Very few people in your position will own up to their wrongdoings. I have good advice for you, though. When I was part of the government, we were colleagues, and I related to you as such. Now I will advise you as my son, just as I do my children. After all, you are same age as my fourth born son. When I returned to Ghana from Germany to start the cardiothoracic project, you were just 6 years old as my fourth child. I will not lie to you or insult you or be harsh on you. My advice is always remember that political power is both short-lived and effervescent. In about 2 years' time, you may no longer be in government and you may experience the real world as former high-profile political power holders do. I will urge you to do your work diligently and avoid the coded and evil tactics, he mentions somebody, boastfully and unashamedly told the world on Good Evening Ghana that you employ to deal with your real and perceived enemies. Again, it's about the allegations he makes about Kojo Ponkroma, and he ends by saying, as you well know, illegal mining does not only refer to non-possession of a concession or mining permits, but also the following. And he makes 6 points. 1, mining close to water bodies. 2, the diversion of tailings into water bodies. 3, mining in the water bodies. 4, use of dangerous chemicals such as mercury and cyanide. 5, engagement of foreigners in small-scale mining. Important point. Engagement of foreigners in small-scale mining. And finally, non-reclamation of mined-out areas. That's how he ends. So I intentionally did this as well as a simple exercise for those who may not have followed the developments to have some sort of holistic view of what has been happening. Now, over to you, Kojo Poku. I nearly called you Kojo Ponkroma. Kojo Poku, what is your understanding of this and what does it mean for the fight against Galamsey?
Okay, Ben, thank you for the introduction and putting the context, putting the whole picture in context. Look, as far as I, Kojo Poku, am concerned, the words of the former minister is not allegation.
Okay.
For me, it's not allegation. He was a minister. He supervised what was going on. He was in charge. He got briefing. He had all the facts on his table. So what he comes out to say, and bear in mind, Bert, that document is not being written now. It's not like he got up and decided to write that document. That document was given to government in 2021. So it's an old document that never saw the day of light. And the minister or the former minister is bringing it to bear. Now, the reason I say that what the minister says is not allegation is that I have had an instance of reading a letter from Mr. Kwaku Bakun, okay? And Mr. Kwaku Bakun basically did not deny the fact he called him and
just to clarify, which Kwaku Bakun are you referring to? Are you referring to
Bakun, is the crusading guy?
Okay, I just wanted you to clarify that.
Okay, yes. And he, in his letter, which I saw on social media, I wasn't sure if that's true, is a true document, but he goes on to now sort of confirm some of the things that the former minister said, but only tried to clarify the point that he was only seeking an appointment for a friend. And at the latter end, even render some level of apology. Then let's go to my brother Gabi's interview. For me, I would have rather wished Gabi had not said anything on air or on TV. Because, look, prospecting license is different from a mining lease. One of the things that people don't know about me, Kojo Poku, is that I think I have done almost everything in the face of this earth. I once had a mining concession in Asankregwa called Cape Poku Mining. Okay? And that concession was from Dunkwao all the way to Asankregwa through Nananko. Now, I was granted a prospecting license.
So that's in the Offin area, right? In the Offin area.
Dunkwao Offin area. Because you go through Dunkwao Offin to Nananko all the way to Asankregwa. And my mining lease, my concession was about 50 kilometers square. Now, I was given a prospecting license. Now, let me tell you what a prospecting license do. You are supposed to take samples from the site, dig some trenches, and basically take those samples to the lab for processing. Now, if somebody tells me that the equipment that you need for mining is the same equipment you need for prospecting, that person doesn't know what he's talking about. And for me, it was sad that Mr. Ochidako said that the document, the equipment he asked, and he was told that the equipment you need for prospecting is the same equipment you need for mining. It's not true. They are two. Prospecting is like going on to do exploration. You are exploring to see if there is gold on the site. So that's what the prospecting license allows you to do. But in Ghana, we are all aware that people have been abusing the prospecting license. They go into Minerals Commission to get prospecting license and use the prospecting license to now enter the land and start mining. While meanwhile, they don't do any prospecting. So it's a known fact that the prospecting license is being abused. And clearly, not only one minister, but other ministers have written to the company to tell them that, look, this is what you are doing. Clearly, they have documentary evidence to show what the gentleman or the company involved was doing. So to now say that you are not aware of any breaches that your client was doing and you are only finding out was very strange. But look, my brother, I think that we've lost the fight in Galamsey not because we don't have the will. We've lost the fight on Galamsey because the president, okay, should have had a no policy. Not some, not if, not no. Now, let me tell you something. If Gabi knew the anger and the frustration and the fury of the president when it comes to Galamsey, I don't think he would have taken anybody as a client if that person came to him with Galamsey issues. Because as you rightfully said, You see, the word galamsey is used loosely, but in that letter in that point that you put out, there are so many activities that comes under galamsey, because there is a law that says that you should mine or stay away from certain meters from a water bank, not the water body, the bank of the river. You are supposed to stay away from a certain meters away from that. You are not supposed to put any chemicals or put any tailings into the river body. You are not supposed to have foreigners in small-scale mining. All these are classified as galamsey. Okay? Now, if somebody forgets mining away from the riverbank, these people are mining in the riverbank, in the river body. Forget staying away from forest reserves. These people are not on the fringes of forest reserves, they are in the forest reserve. So how can anybody defend some of these things? But in the past, if you go online and search, I have really had this fury. At a point I said that, look, if the military goes out there and see the level of what these guys are doing and they ask them to stop and they stand their ground, they should shoot to kill. Because in some areas, the Chinese have guns and they threaten the security forces. In which country can somebody go into another man's country, have ammunition, and do illegal mining? Can any Ghanaian go to China and do that? No. But look, there are Chinese who are mining today as we speak, and they have military protection. Today as we speak, they have national security protection. Why? So like I said, there shouldn't have been, okay, not this one, not that one. Okay, he can do it, but let him do it well. Okay, let's see how it goes. No means no. This government's policy on illegal mining from 2017 should have been no. And if that was the case, I don't think we would have gotten to where we got to. But the minute we started selecting which one is okay, selecting which one can be done, and ask yourself, when the former minister was on the seat, did he report these people to national security?
In fact, there has been counter accusation. Now, some others have also accused him that he was also engaged in a number of things. Some of these people whose names have been pointed out. But when you go to myjoyonline.com, which is where we're going to continue from here, I'll let you land. I'll just introduce some interesting aspects of what you've said. There is that quote there. I did not operate mining information service, Professor Frimpong-Boateng responding to Gabi Otridako. But what I find curious, so government says the allegations contained in Professor Frimpong-Boateng's report are at best, hearsay. You are saying you disagree. They are saying it's a catalogue of his grievances, personal grievances. Maybe he's getting emotional. That is what they are saying. So I have two questions just to wrap on this so we move on to other pertinent matters. Where then does that leave us in the fight against galamsey? Mind you, Mr. President said he would put his presidency on the line. According to most of the reports we've seen, according to our reporters going out there to look at the state of our water bodies, things have become much worse. Then point number two, staying with the president. You say if the president had known that Gabi was engaging in all of this, representing people mired in galamsey and all of that, he would have been furious. But I ask, if the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, had been as furious as you claim he would be, wouldn't this report have seen the light of day much earlier, until now some 2 years on? Quick reflections on that so we move on.
No, you see, I normally, unless there are clear evidence on the table, I always like to isolate and insulate the high office of the presidency. And this is the reason why. The letter from Mr. Frimpong, from Professor Frimpong-Boateng's
Frimpong-Boateng.
Yes, from the former minister's statement, he gave the report to the chief of staff, not to the president. Now, let me make this statement. There is a cabinet for a reason. And for me, I think in governance in Ghana, we've lost it. Professor Frimpong-Boateng is a cabinet minister. If he could come out and show us a cabinet memo where this document or these things that he has gotten information was discussed, that would take this conversation to a whole new level. Because bear in mind, cabinet is where sensitive information things that you need the president's attention is discussed. Now, we don't have that. He's saying that he gave it to the chief of staff. So the next question is, did the chief of staff give it to the president? The fact that something was given to the chief of staff doesn't mean that it got to the president. So for me, that is where I said that until there is hard proof on the table, I like to insulate the high office of presidency. That is why I said what I said. Because one, if the reason the Jubilee House or the office of the president can come out and say that, look, these are unfounded, blah, 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 because for all you know, yes, he went to the chief of staff and the chief of staff sat on the matter. He never got to the next floor, okay? So the point is, why didn't Professor Frimpong-Boateng take this to cabinet? If he felt so strongly about it, why isn't there a cabinet memo of this discussion? Because in his report, he gives us a cabinet reference.
Kojo, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. Looking at the names he mentions, cabinet ministers are pointed at in these what you say are not allegations, okay? For you, they are factual. I mean, there's a lot of truth to them. How do you feel that would have panned out in cabinet, at a cabinet meeting, for a cabinet minister to put this forward with other cabinet ministers? What do you think would have happened? It would have been a melee, wouldn't it?
Man, isn't that where the most frank conversation is supposed to be had? When, as a minister, because look, if he's trying to tell us he is the person we want him to be, Ben, can you imagine, like me, Kojo Poku, have something like that and I'll take it to cabinet? Hell yeah, I'll take it to cabinet. I would like to see the fight at cabinet. That's how I am. I will take this document to cabinet and in front of the president and the vice president, mention the names and see what goes around the table. I will do that because that's the kind of person I am. But listen, like you're saying, now there's counter accusation of him. I have seen documents of certain things involving him on social media. I don't know how far that is true. But what I'm saying is that today, him coming out with some of these things, the conversation will be different if we would have heard that, hey, have you heard there was a fight or rancors or uproar at cabinet when the minister came and mentioned certain people around the table who are doing galamsey and put it to the president to stop it, and then what next? That is the way forward.
All right. Let's make tracks from there. We'll have a full conversation on that. But of course, since you're not going to be a part of that conversation, I just wanted your take on that matter. But going to the economy, which is another major issue now, I just want to run you by a few of the stories we have on myjoyonline.com. World Bank to advance almost $1 billion to Ghana under IMF program. That's according to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. He also says we will protect the public purse. We will spend what we earn. Again, quoting Ken Ofori-Atta. And he also says, in terms of the IMF deal, we intend to take the community across the Jordan. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta getting biblical one more time. Get the country across the Jordan, or our community. And finally, this one. We will protect the public purse. Or in fact, Ghana may have to wait several years before going to the international capital market. That's according to the finance minister. So a number of things he said. A $1 billion program to be extended to Ghana. That's what he says. He talks about protecting the public purse and spending what we earn. Important point. And Ghana may have to wait several years before getting back on the international capital market and then crossing the Jordan. Quick take on where we are in terms of our program, the economy, and how much weight you give the words of the finance minister.
Are they new statements or statements made in 2017?
These are new statements.
Oh, it cannot be. I'm sorry, it can't be.
Why?
They can't be new statements. How can they be new statements? Protecting the public purse, shutting the bolt of the hull of the barn when the horse have now bolted. Come on, what are you protecting? You are going to now shut the barn when the horse have bolted. What are you protecting? 1 billion from the World Bank. We are getting 3 billion and we don't even know what it's going to do. And then the 1 billion is going to do what? This is a country that have a huge deficit. We are being told that we are nearly going to run out of our reserves. Okay, we are an oil-producing country. What is 1 billion to an oil-producing country? I think there are old statements being rehashed. I saw that, but I honestly thought there were old statements being rehashed by the journalists or the media, because those cannot be something that he honestly believed in as well. Because look, the economy where we are on overdrive in expenditure, where our revenues don't catch up. Clearly, if you do not have the revenue and you believe in that statement that you're going to spend what you earn, then your revenue, if it's 70 billion, your expenditure will be 80 billion at best. 80 billion. Let's say you are even doing 10 billion Ghana cedis more than, because you can't do like for like. So if your projected revenue, but you see, we have a template in the Ministry of Finance where we are always doing hyperbole, where, they come and read the budget and say, expected revenue 120 billion. Meanwhile, you can't achieve 120 billion, giving you the room to now put your expenditure at 140 billion. When your real expenditure from the year before, in business, when I sit in my boardroom and I ask the CFO or the managing director to do their budget statements, we have what you call your budget, your proposed budget, and your actuals. Then we have a variance, which is the third phase. Now, when you have a negative variance, it means you are overspending. You have positive variance because you are now achieving your target and not spending as much. If anybody that sits in the Ministry of Finance and see the previous year's revenue statement and look at what the revenues were, what we collected, and the proposed of 120 revenue, you realize that you are always achieving a negative variance. But then when you now have an expenditure where it's in positive variance, then there's a problem. My brother, I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because the issue is that you cannot spend what you earn just by the budget you've read. You are expecting to earn so little and spend so much. So how do you believe in that statement of, I will spend what I earn, when your budget says otherwise? When you are an oil-producing country that can easily earn that $1 billion a month, and you've ignored that space, and you're going to the World Bank to receive that $1 billion, how am I supposed to basically even read that statement and think that you're a serious person? Then secondly, protecting the public purse. We all know that's not true. It hasn't been true from 2017. It hasn't been true till now. So for me, one thing I wonder is why is he still the finance minister? Because everybody in this country has told the president that Mr. Kenufureta should not be the finance minister. We don't have anything against him. But for his track record for the last 5 years, we don't think he should be the finance minister of this country.
Anyway, let's wrap with some interesting thoughts. Two issues I want us to end the conversation with. We know, and we'll go to graphiconline.com, but the police has arrested a police officer, Inspector Ahmed Chumesi, who is alleged to have shot and killed a female adult who was believed to be his girlfriend. This occurred in Kumasi in the Ashanti region on Thursday, the 20th of April, 2023. I mean, there's been so much on social media on the back of this killing in Edum. And the suspect, who had been on the run, was arrested at Setre, near Ifidiasi in the Ashanti region. And that is the latest development there. We've had some interesting developments with people in the services, from Sheriff, unfortunately, who was killed in Ashaiman, to this one. It appears, and then to the Axim issue, then to the beating of some police officers and all of that. There's quite, I don't know what is going on, but what do you make of that? And just to add this one, there's also that story, interesting, of the University for Professional Studies, Accra, a lady whipping a younger colleague in a viral video, and that lady is said to have been dismissed. Maybe you spotted the video, but the student of the UPSA was captured in a viral video whipping another student, and she has been sacked. In the video posted on social media earlier this month, Mabel Tay Nomo was seen in the hallway of the school's hostel, hurling insults at the much younger victim while assaulting her with a cane. Now, the question is, why? The allegation is that the victim was being punished by the senior for spreading rumors about her. And there is talk about some claims that they were giving sexual favors for grades to teachers and so many things that have been alleged. But again, these developments in our schools, I do not know. It's getting out of hand. It is this intimate tape today, tomorrow it is that intimate tape, the next day it is all kinds of craziness. What do you make of these two issues? Just to wrap the conversation, Kojo.
Ben, for me, it's funny how technology has evolved some of these things and how some of these, it's wrong what is happening there. I don't know how there are two students, and that's where I find it baffling, that a student can have a cane to beat another student. But when I was in Opokuwari back in the day, but the culture was a bit different. The sort of punishment that we had and the sort of things that we went through in secondary school, you take it in your stride and you move forward, becomes a senior, and you do so.
No, but this is a tertiary institution. I mean, for crying out loud, whipping out a cane and caning the person for supposedly claiming that you sleep with lecturers for grades.
Because that's what I'm saying. That's why I find it confusing how somebody who is probably 2 years your senior can actually take a cane and beat you. It's baffling why she is not fighting back or anybody is not going to the aid of the lady. And clearly, what is really happening in the world, which is baffling, is that when something is happening, instead of people to help the victim, everybody is just happy to stand by and just film it.
Yeah.
Why are you filming it for? Help the victim. The person with the camera should be ashamed of him or herself. Why are you filming it? Go and help. Because this is not a teacher beating a student. This is not a headmaster beating a student. This is a student beating a student. Why are you not helping the victim?
The perpetrator has been sacked now, and I feel these are instances where the law would have to step in as well, because you simply can't do this.
Yes, but Ben, my point is that let's educate Ghanaians and the people around the world to intervene to help victims. Stop filming. It's annoying.
Right.
Who are you filming it for?
Right.
Somebody's being victimized. You've seen people being robbed. You see people being beaten. And the only thing everybody can do is take a camera out and film it. Why? Why can't you help the person?
Right.
Okay, so for me, that the law will take its course, but these things, this culture of filming and trying to be the one that put a story out there, for me, look, it doesn't make sense. Let's go to the police issue.
Yeah.
The police issue for me is psycho-evaluation that the police need to start doing of the service personnel. We need to psycho-evaluate all police personnel. There is a group of students in KNUST and other universities that are doing these psychology and all these things. I think the police should recruit people into the police force who psycho-evaluate all police personnel, whether once a year or everybody has to go for psycho-evaluation to know the profile of the people who are in uniform. Because the manner in which we are recruiting into the force is also becoming a problem. Because not everybody wants to be in the police, but because there are no jobs, everybody thinks, oh, there's a recruitment going on, let me go and get involved. They know a politician who can get them in, they get them in. But a lot of people don't want to be in the police.
Right.
And the frustration of the job and all that comes with it might affect the person mentally. Some people have mental health problems, okay? But we don't know that in this country, that we take them and give them guns and uniform. It becomes a problem. Okay, so people in the military, people in the police, we need to psycho-evaluate these people to know the mental health of the people who we are giving guns to and the people that we are giving uniforms to. Without that, we are not safe. And this poor girl, I don't know what the story is or what could have aggravated him to the point of shooting the lady, but it's unfortunate that it has to come to that. But I think the police should take this advice and recruit a lot of psychologists to psycho-evaluate the personnel once a year.
All righty. Thank you very much, Kojo Poku, for sharing your thoughts. A senior colleague, though, I'm not going to mention the name, shares some thoughts. And the bit about what you said about filming, though, that's what I'm going to share with you. The person says, but for filming, George Floyd would not have had justice. You remember the George Floyd incident and the knee on his neck and all of that. So some would say, yes, someone should assist, but at the same time, someone should also get photographic evidence of this. What do you think?
The instance is not the same. A police victimizing somebody, yes, film it, because you can intervene. The police, look, the police doing their work, if you intervene, is obstruction of justice, and you can also be arrested for that. So the most you can do is film. The security forces, that's fine. But my point is that this is the dormitory. This is the hostel. These are colleagues. Okay, and there are so many instances of people that can assist in that instance, especially when somebody is being robbed and you film it. Somebody is being caned and you film it. And there's somebody in the room, in the hostel room, filming it. Why didn't you tell the person to stop? I can understand somebody filming because, look, from filming, forget George Floyd. You remember there was one way back some time ago that caused a big rout in America. What's the name again? Rodney King. The Rodney King incident was the biggest, and that one became a big issue in America because of filming. So yes, filming is good, but that is when you have institution bullying or security services doing the wrong thing and you film it and put it to light. That's good. But individuals doing something, please let's stop the filming and assist the victim in that instance.
All right.
But like I said, Ben, let me take this opportunity to wish Baka de Salah to all the MPP Nasara community and then the Muslim community who have gone through a month of fasting, and I hope they prayed for well-being of this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kojo, for joining the conversation. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst, and he says he's a jack of all trades. In fact, he has done some mining as well. He had a concession that he explored. Kojo Poku joining us this holiday morning. Kojo, thank you. But right before we get into sports, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic is offering you free prostate screening, free female fertility screen as well. And this is all you have to do. Just reach out to them at their various centers. Here in Accra, they are located at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronoma here, behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's also Takrade Anaji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama in Zima. Their call lines are, note them down, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And it was also the end of the road for, was it Brighton? One of those clubs that locked horns with Manchester United. Manchester United has been flip-flopping in recent times, losing to Sevilla by a thumping of 3-0. But they came through on penalties yesterday, scraping through to the finals of the FA Cup. They won the Carabao Cup earlier. Will they be able to beat Manchester City? It's the first time there is a derby at the FA Cup level. And here, Adriana also stunning Accra Hearts of Oak, among others. But we'll be taking Joseph Agbeko, who speaks to Muftau Nabila on this morning's Sporting Edition.
The first time I won the world title, you know, every boxer's dream is to become a champion.
Yeah.
So on that night, I knew I was going to win, but immediately the referee declared the fight as a technical knockout. You know, the brain was just running. You know, everybody came and they started carrying me and so on, and I was like, wow. This has been the dream that I had from childhood, and today I have been able to achieve that dream by God's grace. I was so. The joy was serious. That night I actually slept with my belt. You know, I have to lay the belt beside me and then sleep with the belt.
I can imagine that.
Yeah,
the excitement alone of finally laying your hand on the world title after that.
But winning it for the second time was, I mean, the joy was more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was more.
Why?
You know, in boxing, right, Floyd Mayweather is a fighter who has never lost before. And I've always loved him for that. But to the boxing community, they do not respect fighters who has not lost before. You know, you can call yourself the great and they still don't respect you.
Because you've never lost?
Yeah. You know,
Why?
I think if you not lost, that means you didn't give yourself the chance for anybody to beat you. Floyd was on his toe, making sure that he fought all the top fighters at his time and he made sure he beat all of them.
Yes.
You know, so to me, that is the greatest to me, you know. But to the boxing community, for you to be called a champion, it's not about you winning a title. The road for you to win a title is very long for the first time. It's long. and you go through it and then you become a champion. It's very tough. But when you lose the belt, for you to win it again, believe me, that is the most toughest. You see after losing the fight, you see yourself among the top rated fighters. You see yourself among the best. So it makes it easier for you to be able to get a chance to fight for a championship again. Unlike you climbing from the ground to the top. So you're already there. But winning it there is the most toughest because you've already tasted defeat. That thing has entered into your brain. The courage and a lot of things that you used to go into the ring with is no more there. Now whenever you're going into the ring, the brain is to win and lose. It's the most toughest part of every boxer.
So when
you lose and you are able to come back and win again, that is when they call you a champion.
When you lost your title, how was it like for you?
It was like the end of the road for me. When I lost it the first time, it was like the end of the road. I was like, wow, I come from Africa. And for Africans to get opportunity is very, very hard. So when am I going to get this opportunity again? Because you know, Africans doesn't sell tickets in America. We don't like to buy plane tickets from here to America to go and watch boxing. And the most toughest part for any African is that even when they buy ticket, the most expensive ticket from Ghana to board a plane to America, when they come to America, they want you, the fighter, to pay for hotel for them. They want you, the fighter, to give them tickets to go watch fights. So it doesn't give the African fighters any value. African fighters doesn't get any value in America when they're fighting because they don't bring nothing to the table. They don't sell tickets, they don't do anything. So for an African boxer to get opportunity, it's hard. They would rather give those opportunities to the Spanish people because they watch boxing a lot. So I was thinking, like, when am I going to get that opportunity again? So when it came back again, I made sure I have to do my best to win it.
I recall in 2013, when you came up against Abner Mares, I think that is a fight, if I'm not mistaken, it's a fight since you had, especially after that second, that rematch that you had with him, your career took a complete nosedive. Talk to us about the first one. I remember that first fight where most of the punches were quite low because I watched that fight. They were quite low, so when you lost, there was an opportunity for you to have a rematch, but the rematch never worked out. Joseph, it never worked out. What happened?
If I would say I have any regret in boxing, I would say my only regret was to fight Abner Mares for the second time. That would be the only regret I would say I had in boxing. I fought Mares the first time when I was sick. Nobody knew about it. Even my team, I couldn't tell them because I fell sick a day before the weigh-in. That was when I fell sick, and we were all on high spirits. So I couldn't even tell my coach. I couldn't even tell anybody because I don't want to, like, destroy their brain. I want everybody to be on their high destiny. And at that particular time, there's no any treatment that I can go through because any treatment that I'll go through around that time will come with some drug that may stop me from fighting. So I have to go ahead and take the fight.
Did you have a psychologist in your team?
A
psychologist?
I have never had a team. So I've never had a team, so don't ask.
So you didn't have a psychologist?
I had never had a team.
Did you have a medical doctor?
Yes.
You had a medical doctor?
Yeah.
But you didn't consider it important to have a psychologist?
You know, there's a lot of things that has to do with boxing and boxers that Africans, we the Africans doesn't get that opportunity.
There were people who actually even accused you of deliberately losing to Abner Mares. Sometimes when you hear these things, how do you feel?
Which one, the first or the second?
The second one.
Okay, so maybe you have to allow me to learn. So I would say that before the fight I felt sick. I kept it to myself. That was a day before the fight. Yeah. I went into the ring. From the beginning, I was a little slow. When I say I felt sick, it wasn't like I felt seriously sick. I was reducing my weight. So I took a hot tub a hot tub bath to relax my muscles. And there's a salt called Epsom salt. Yeah. It relaxes your muscles. Yeah. So you put it in the hot water, you relax yourself in it, and it relaxes your muscles. It's like a massage kind of therapy. So I did that, but when I was doing it, because I was reducing my weight, I made the hot water a little hotter so that I can sweat more, so I'll be able to reduce more weight. So because of the heat that went into me, the following morning, I couldn't wake up healthy as I used to be. So I had to take some paracetamol, like just to
was that an advice from your doctor?
For what? For the Epsom salt?
Yeah, for the...
Yeah, we do it all the time. It's something they make us do it all the time. While when you're preparing for a fight, after every time, you do it just to relax your muscles. It relaxes your muscles. It's a salt, you put it in the water, you make it a little warm, you lie in it, relax for some 30 minutes, and it goes inside your muscle just to relax your muscles. When you ask the boxers, they know about it. So I think because of the heatness of the water, that made me feel ill. So I went into the fight. From the first 2-3 rounds, I was very slow. Mares was looking good from that side. And then after those rounds, I started picking up, but the low blows continue going up and down. The low blows were coming on and on. And the referee was supposed to stop the fight or disqualify Mares, and they didn't do that. And then they gave the decision to Mares, and then I had the opportunity to fight for the rematch, which was actually ordered by the IBF. And I'll say it was a regret for me to go into the second rematch with the second fight with Mares, because the first fight with Mares, I felt like Golden Boy did everything they could do to make Mares a champion, because Golden Boy has had a lot of champions, but all those champions weren't Golden Boy's fighters. They were fighters from Ahemo and other people. But Mares was their only grassroots fighter who they took from the grass, and they want to do everything possible to make Mares a champion, so they can use Mares as
a selling point.
A selling point. So they were doing everything possible. So on that first fight, which they couldn't disqualify him and they gave it to him, when the rematch came, I felt that there was a lot of things that went into that rematch, because the fight was supposed to be Duncan promotion, Duncan and Golden Boy promotion, but the rematch became only Golden Boy promotion. So all right was given to Golden Boy, and the fight was actually promoted in the hometown of Abner Mares. And during my preparation for the fight, I got a lot of distraction from Duncan, a lot of distraction from my own promoter who want to see me win. And 1 minute we have a fight, another minute there's no fight. So my training camp has been on and off to some time. And then I actually wanted to pull out of that fight because my training camp hasn't been good. But I think
it means that your boxing career has always been full of issues.
Yeah. So at that point, there is a press conference that we always do. The media press that we always do before a fight. So on that media engagement, I said to my managers that I'm not going to go on that this thing because I'm not going to fight.
But do you think, on a hindsight, do you think that you should have had a psychologist? If you had a psychologist could have helped you better, because this is purely psychological issue.
If I had had a team, or I have had a manager who was on my side, maybe my mind has been on fighting in the ring, maybe somebody would have requested that, oh, okay, let's do this or let's do that. Do you understand me? So that has to do with me not wanting to fight for that fight. And then Duncan went on that
tangent.
That media, I don't know how they have a name that they call it, that media engagement. Yeah. And then Duncan said to Showtime that I want to pull out of the fight. you know. But Showtime doesn't know whatever is going on between myself, my management, and Don King. They don't know. So at that particular time, if I decide to pull out of the fight, I'm going to destroy Showtime's fight. So I went into the fight. Going into the fight, I realized that the fight wasn't mine. Even the first referee Rosamora, was even better than the second referee. During the fight, the referee disabled me. He disabled me in every angle. Everything that I want to do, the referee is going to give me warning on it. Everything that will work for me is going to give me warning on it. So now I became too conscious. Whenever I'm going to go all out or anything I want to do, I just get that I don't want to do anything for this referee to warn me or to disqualify me. And whenever the referee comes after me, he comes after me with some anger in his face and some arrogance. So you
felt the world was against you?
Against me. So I wasn't allowed to be able to, to fight. And I lost the second fight, and the second fight was actually a proper loss.
When you lost the second fight, and many Ghanaians were like, oh, Wama, Obabu, Abina Mary, and what was that?
Abina Maris.
No, they were saying Abina Mary. Like, Ghanaians were jokingly saying that you've allowed a woman to beat you. And how did you feel when all this came up?
Yeah, this is what I have to tell Ghanaians. Boxing is a very, very, very tough sport. And the one in the ring wants to win more than you, the one watching. And one thing they have to know is that the government does not invest into our preparation towards any fight. And they're the fans that watch us. They don't even come over there to pay so we can have get some value in terms of bargaining value for our earnings. Do you get me? They only sit here and they watch. And whenever you lose, everyone wants to insult you. Whenever you win, they want to share the glory with you. But whenever you lose, everyone wants to insult you. But you win. You want to win more than they want you to win. You want to do everything more than they want to get it. So whenever if Ghanaians know that they want to criticize boxers, they should be ready to be investing into the preparation of fighters. They should put pressure on the government so the government can invest in the preparation for fighters. Then whenever a fighter loses, like how Black Star, they give money to Black Stars, and when they lose, everyone can insult them. They should be able to put pressure on the government so the government can invest into the preparation of the fighters so that whenever we lose, they can insult us.
That's quite an interesting one. But there are people who also argue that national team is a team sport. Boxing is an individual thing. So there are people who can argue that. And when you're going for a major tournament, it's a tournament that the country has registered to be part of. Boxing is an individual boxer who has gone to register.
So when the individual goes and he wins or he loses, they should keep quiet so that he can come home and have his rest. Because it's an individual sport. So they should take their loss individually. They should take it individually so that once they come, it's for them. You didn't do anything. So they go. When you see them, you wave at them or you don't. They are, but if you know, that's all. Don't say anything.
After that fight against Abner Mares, your career took a complete nosedive. What happened?
I think that those low blows from Mares took me a very low.
It took loads of energy out of you?
It took me very low in terms of my career. Not because it took energy of me, but that particular fight actually took a lot from me. If I hadn't engaged in the second fight, my career would have looked a little better. But I would say God knows best. God knows why everything went that way.
So would you describe that fight as your lowest moment as a boxer?
Yes.
Wow. You also had many planned fights that were cancelled. What happened? Remember those ones?
Yes.
In fact, when we became partners and in some of your fights, I remember one, we went for the weigh-in, we were there when the opponent was not coming. What happened? What happened that most of your fights were cancelled?
I would say at a point of time, between 2012, 2013, I was installed at Warrior Chief, Toby Kaleto, in the Volta region. And after that installment, a lot of things started going off in my career. Even in the US, before I have to move from the US to Ghana, I was facing a challenge. I was facing a challenge in the US where, because I was staying in New York before I moved to Vegas.
Okay.
So staying in Vegas for some time, I have to now change my my license from New York license to Nevada license. So, excuse me, going through medicals to get the Nevada license, there were a few, I failed, not fail, but there was a problem with one of my medical. So I have to go back and do other exams just to confirm what they see. And when I went to do all those exams, there was nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong with me. But still, when I go to the other one, there's still problem. But when I go to check, there's nothing wrong with me. So I was having challenges getting the Nevada license. So I decided to come back home. That was. I decided to come back home. When I came back home. You
said you were in Skin as a chief, right?
Yeah.
You have some roots from the Volta region?
Come again?
Do you have some roots from the Volta region?
I'm 100% Voltarian.
But you were born in Sukura?
I was born in Sukura, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I'm 100% Voltarian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I came to Ghana, I went for the check, the same medical again over here, and there was nothing wrong with me. I did it twice, and there was nothing wrong with me.
So medically, there was nothing wrong
with me, but I don't know why it keeps showing over there that there was a problem, and whenever they even check it, they review it, they can't see anything. But when I came to Ghana too, there was nothing wrong with me. So I just had a feeling that there was a strong force against my career if I want to. I just had a feeling like that. And every time I try to do anything, I always have.
As in a spiritual force against your career in what?
Yes, I'll put it that way. I will put it that way. There was a strong force against me in my career. Every time I try to do something, any boxing match, anything, one way or the other, I always have challenges. I always have people trying to pull me back. I always have other challenges. Things are not working. In few years ago, I was supposed to fight for the WBO final eliminator in the UK. One way or the other, something happened and it couldn't happen. About over a year now, about a year ago, I was supposed to fight for the WBO World Championship in Dubai. We were in Dubai, we prepared for the fight and everything. Even preparing for the fight, I fell sick. I had to go through the sickness, overcome it, go to Dubai, prepare to fight. And about 2 to 3 hours before the fight, the opponent called that he can't take the fight anymore. You know, so the fight got cancelled.
There was also a similar one. You were supposed to fight a Kenyan opponent.
Yeah.
We were in Bochum waiting for arrival for weigh-in and all that. All of a sudden, the fight did not happen again.
Yeah, I've had a lot of those.
And there's no reason why those fights were cancelled. Yeah. They didn't give you any concrete reason. They would just tell you, I don't want to fight again.
It has always been going like that.
But there were also people who claimed that you had issues with the Ghana Boxing Authority who were not sanctioning your fights.
I would say I do not have any issue with the Ghana Boxing Authority. If I will have any issue, maybe it will be an individual people on the board who may have issues with me. I don't know if for a tribal reason or not. I grew up in BC. I spent most of my time in BC. So I see myself more of a Ghan than even an Ewe. You know, so I don't know why, but the boxing community does not appreciate me, does not love me. They don't treat me like how they treat the other fighters. I don't know if because I'm from the Volta region or whatever, but I actually live there. But for some reason, there are a lot of people in there that they don't like me.
So you felt marginalized?
Even with the Bukum boxing arena. When you go inside the Bukum boxing arena, there is a place where they have all the champions' picture in there.
Yeah, I can even picture some of them. Yeah.
When you go in there, you know, Joseph Agbeko was not a fighter who just won a world title once. When you look at the champions, from the greats Azuma Nelson, DK Poison, everyone, if you want to mention about 3 or 4 great champions among all the 10, you mention me. Because I was 2 times world champion. I even added a bonus one, which is IBO, and IBO is not a recognized world title. So I would say 2 times world champion. Azuma was 3 times. Nana Okunedu was also, I think, 2 or 3 times or 2 division. So, but I was behind those top great fighters. So I have achieved a lot in the boxing fraternity, you know. So there's no way anybody trying to put pictures of fighters who has achieved for Ghana and they wouldn't think about Joseph Agbeko.
So you feel that people of Bukum don't appreciate you, and even the boxing?
The boxing, I don't think
they don't respect you.
It's not. I wouldn't say they don't. They don't appreciate me. I don't know. But
do you feel hurt by this?
Come again?
Do you feel hurt that, despite all the successes you've chalked, if you're putting up an arena that is dominated by boxing legends and they don't consider you in there, it's quite an insult. Do you feel hurt?
Yeah, I would say, yes, I feel hurt sometimes because I feel hurt sometimes.
Sometimes, but not all the time.
You know, I just feel like maybe as I'm thinking that they hate, maybe it's part of me. I was born like that.
You were born to always have issues surrounding you and all that.
It's another beautiful opportunity, and this is Drive Safe. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I am back at Top Tech Transport and Logistics, and this is where you really need to come if you want to know how to drive properly and do the right thing on the road and save your life as well as that of other motorists. Thank you for joining us. Now today, we're going to be talking about night driving, yes, but with a different dynamic. It is raining. Extreme weather conditions while you're driving at night. Driving at night already is problematic. Throw in other conditions and it becomes chaotic if you are not careful. How do you manage the situation? Before I get to Mr. Gabra though, let's take a quick look at this signal. So you think you know, but do you know? So you've seen that signal and you've seen the different answers. Which answer do you think it is? Curious, huh? So we'll find out at the end of this segment. But let me say hello to Mr. Cecil Gabra. Thank you once more for joining us.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Great. Now, night driving is the conversation we just had. And we're now throwing in, let's say, a spanner in the wheel. You're driving at night, you're already struggling like those of us with 4 eyes. And there are extreme weather conditions. Let's say it is raining heavily. What changes? What should you do? How should you react as you drive?
Thank you so much. But then, first of all, do you have very good wipers? That is what you have to ask yourself. Wipers in Africa can only be used for a period of 3 months because of the scorching sun. Rubber is not permanent. Rubber doesn't last. And therefore, you cannot use rubber in this hot scorching sun for more than 3 months. So first of all, you need to get a good wiper, and that is why you should always have a set of wiper blades in your vehicle. Now, as soon as you start putting on your...
So basically, just as you have spare tires, you should have spare
wiper blades. Yes. Now, when you put on your wiper blades and you hear that squeaking sound,
it means it's come to the end of its lifespan.
That gives you that warning that very soon it's going to go away from the system that holds the blade.
Right.
Yes. So that's number one. You need to change your wiper blades. That when you switch on your wiper, you will not hear any sound from your windscreen.
So just to get it clear, once you start hearing that sound, it means you need to replace
time for replacement.
Right.
Right. So that's the warning. Right. So when you set off, you should have what we call the wiper fluid. I think I mentioned it the other time. The wiper fluid must be fully topped up, okay? And that thing is not soap. Don't use Omo or any hard, soap.
So I go to my filling station and there's a specific watery liquid soap kind of thing.
Precisely.
I actually buy it. It's specific for and that's what I use.
Yes.
Blue colored liquid.
Yes, that is it. That is the wiper fluid. A lot of people don't know, and that is why they try to mix up their own chemicals, because some of it also will destroy the rubber. Okay, especially if it's gotten any petroleum products in them. Right. Your wiper blades will go even before the 3 months. So change your wiper blades. Let it be new always. Now, as you set off and then you see that it's raining, you need to ask yourself so many questions, okay? If you have your phone, you stop, you look at the weather conditions, what your phone says, what Uncle Google will tell you is fairly the truth, right? If you are traveling and then, it's raining heavily, what you need to do is look for somewhere to stop your vehicle, park your vehicle, not under a tree anyway. A plain place is okay. You don't drive in heavy rain. If it's drizzling...
How heavy is heavy?
Well, heavy means that your wiper, number 2, that's how I call it, that's the fast, okay, and it's cleaning so fast, but still you can't see. Yeah, that's
so it's at the highest point and you're still struggling.
Precisely. And then also, there is a switch in the car that people don't know. Now that switch produces a lot of heat for the windscreen. Okay. Now you need to put that. It's called a defroster. You put it on because obviously you will be using your air conditioner, or you will be using. You'll be driving whilst your glasses are up.
So is it that button that I think it shows, when you want to heat up? Is that the button you're referring to?
It's a defroster.
Right.
And then you have it both at the front and then the back glasses.
Vehicle, right.
Okay, so you need to put it on. So that will give you that clearance. So whilst you're driving and then you notice that, hey, I cannot drive again, you look for somewhere and park. Don't force yourself to drive in that rainy condition. Now, before it gets to that point, road crashes occur when it's even drizzling daytime, okay? Because this is a situation where, especially we are driving on a bitumen road, okay? When it drizzles on it, the whole road becomes very oily. Your brakes wouldn't be able to work well. You have a situation where you go on your brakes, and then you find your vehicle moving towards a direction. Even with all the systems that you have, may not be able to work well.
Your car might even skid.
It will skid off, right? So night driving, when you are driving in that situation, is very, very difficult and then very tiring, and therefore you must not attempt. Park your vehicle, let the rains calm down, And when you set off, look for floods. In this situation, look out for the vehicle coming in front of you. Okay, if there are no vehicles, put on your most powerful lights, which is the high lights, and drive slowly because you may be entering a flood, which you may not know, especially when you are traveling and you don't know the condition of that road.
Because you can't see too far ahead because of the weather conditions.
Yes, drive gently, don't be in a hurry, and this time, roll your glasses also down so you get the ambience of if there's any water passing. It's really important.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Very interesting. Because water moving at a speed will make that noise even before you get there.
Right.
And it kills a lot of people because those driving the 4x4s are so funny. Not every 4x4 is a 4x4. I always say it. We have vehicles like RAV4, Toyota RAV4, that looks like a 4x4, but it is not a 4x4. However, if you are using the most powerful 4x4, you cannot drive in such situation, okay? And then I think at another time, we'll talk about how to drive a 4x4 using all your auxiliary gears.
Okay. Right before we wrap on driving at night under extreme weather conditions, I also want to know, when it's raining, you're driving at night, what should you know when it comes to the application of brakes? Very briefly on that.
Well, thank you so much. You have to look out for the vehicle in front of you. When it moves to the left, move towards the left. If it touches his brake, touch your brake. That is it.
The person in front of you should be your guide.
Yes, the person in front of you must always be your guide because he will not go on his brake if there's no emergency. If he taps on your brake, on his brake, tap on your brake and wait for the next thing that you do. It's so interesting. Don't think that a person in front of you is not driving well. He is a good driver and he is guiding you. So if you're at the fourth car, you see all the cars in front of you doing the same thing, tapping on brakes, moving to the left, moving to the right, and sometimes abrupt stop. Speed limit must not exceed 60 kilometers per hour at night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gabra, for walking us through this. Today, we've taken a look at driving at night under extreme or certain weather conditions, specifically rainy conditions. 60 kilometers per hour. Look out for the vehicles ahead of you in terms of how they are braking and all of that. Just follow suit. Don't be in too much of a hurry to get to your destination. Better get to your destination alive than not get there and be dead. That's how we wrap up on a Drive Safe for another segment. Like I always say, drive safe and stay alive. But so you think you know. Here's the answer to today's quiz question. And that's a wrap. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for watching. Well, thank you very much for staying with us on the AM show. Time now for us to get into our big stories. The first one we're getting into, and we're going to be talking about the Jubilee House, which has taken on Professor Frimpong-Boateng, former minister with this administration. And it's all about that report he put together and what it has generated in recent times, the conversation it has generated, the angst it has generated from some quarters. But what are the main details? We already started the conversation from the newspaper review, or the news review, I should say. We didn't have papers today. Well, now we're joined by Professor Appiagyei Atua. He is a lecturer at the Faculty of Law, University of Ghana. He joins us for a conversation. We'll have another crucial guest joining the conversation shortly via Zoom. But Prof, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
It's always good having you. And I should add, happy holiday to you.
Same to you.
Let's get into the main thrust of the matter. What do you make of this report that for some 2 years did not see the light of day? Some have said, well, if he had any real grievances, he should have put that before cabinet when he was a minister. But others have said this report, which was presented to the chief of staff, was swept under the carpet. What is your sentiment on that?
Yes, for me, I think the matter was swept under the carpet. Because if you look at the reports, it is not just an ordinary report. It's not just an informal discussion as it is being alleged. Of course, we don't have all the complement of facts to come to a definite conclusion. But if you put the pieces together, the evidence can be corroborated to come to the conclusion that this is not just a personal rantings by the former minister about an issue that he confronted while doing his work as a minister and as part of the chair of that committee that was set up. So it is unfortunate that that is the spin that the government is putting on it. But it is obvious for well-meaning people to discern and to see that this is a deliberate attempt to sweep something under the carpet and to come up with some justification which does not seem to fly.
To come up with some justification that does not seem to fly. But what do you feel could have led to this situation? Why do you think, you say it was swept under the carpet, but why do you think that was?
Well, for a number of reasons. I think one is the obvious fact that who is running the show, the governance system that we have, who is running it, it's not just the government that has been brought to power. And so in this situation, you have some forces that work behind or are working behind the government. And it's not only peculiar to Ghana. It's as a result of the kind of democratic system that has been imposed on us. And so we have a system where people support campaigning and people need to be paid back for what they have put into the campaign exercise. And so for that matter, it's difficult for government to, expose such people. And for that matter, it creates a situation where some issues are swept under the carpet just to protect people who are in high places and who are involved in such practices. I think that is the bottom line.
Do you concur? Do you agree with those who say there were other routes if he wanted this to actually get to Mr. President? He could have done so at a cabinet meeting, for example, or he could have put it before cabinet. Do you feel that would have been prudent? Because others have also said that, look, if he had done that, especially when you're naming people who are members of cabinet, that could have been problematic. How do you respond to that?
I think indirectly,
well, we have connectivity issues with Professor Appiagyei. We'll try to rectify that and, of course, get back to him on that substantive question. But if you just joined the conversation, it's our first big story this morning. And we're talking about the back and forth between Professor Frimpong-Boateng and establishment, government, and some responses as well. We'll get to those responses from the likes of Kojo Nkrumah, from the likes of Gabi Otredako, and the counter response from Professor Frimpong-Boateng. But we're getting into that 30-plus page report that he put together, which the Jubilee House has described as merely being basically hearsay. Hearsay. They say they are effusions, if you like, emotional effusions of the former Minister of State. And we're getting into that all-important matter. In fact, quoting what the Jubilee House says, it refers to it as containing a catalogue of grievances, personal grievances, if you like, and hearsay. That is how, or that is the posturing of the president on the matter. So an investigation was called for, but then again, you would have people talk about the fact that the Jubilee House then started castigating other elements within the Jubilee House, or the setup started castigating Professor Frimpong-Boateng for these utterances. The question remains, where do we go from here? We'll try to see. If we're not getting Professor Appiagyei, maybe we'll put some of the statements on and proceed from there. Do we have Prof back on the line? Right, so as we wait to connect with Professor Appiagyei, we'll take some of what Gabi Asare-Otrudako has been saying on this matter as he was pointed at in this report by Professor Frimpong-Boateng. Let's watch what he had to say.
Professional to drop a name on a matter that was purely about a lawyer asking questions about his client. My lawyer comes to me and says that his client, with all these permits and licenses, goes on site with equipment to do prospecting, and the soldiers have come to seize the equipment. Now, what do you do as a lawyer? So I call the Minister for clarification. I have a client who has all the documents or permits and licenses required to do prospecting, everything. And he goes on site, and then soldiers come to basically stop, not just stop them from working, but seize all the equipment. So I asked the minister, but they have permits, so what really, I want to understand the issue. And then the minister fires back and says, they are not prospecting, they are mining. Are you challenging the permit as fake? I said, no, but it shouldn't have been issued. I said, yeah, but that's a different matter. But I just want to understand really what the issues are. Is it that, so essentially he gave me his side of the story, which is that he believes that what they were doing was mining, not prospecting, even though they had just gone on site. And that was the conversation that we had.
All right, so having heard Gabi Asare-Otrudako, let's also respond, or let's listen to someone else who's also been responding to the assertions by Professor Frimpong-Boateng. Lord Kome of the MPP has been responding as well.
And granted that he wrote that, whether he's in his right frame of mind. Because this is a minister that I have never spoken to him before in my life. You heard it. I have been national organizer of this party for years, okay? When I knew him, all through to becoming a minister of state and thereafter. Never, ever have I spoken to him in my life. So I don't know what he's talking about. In any case, which of them is he tagging me with? That I'm the frontal person, or I am the influencer or interfering person, or that I am the main person. It's ridiculous, okay? And in fact, he should not play on the minds of Ghanaians. This is a whole professor, okay, highly respected in the Ghanaian society. That the president gives you a tax, okay, and a huge tax as one. What did I hear you read? That he was trying to accuse the president of total disregard? For goodness sake. Well, was he the one who advised the president to set up an interministerial committee in the first place? For him to now call it total disregard. The man who set the committee up, if he were not serious and didn't mean it, he would have set it up and appointed you. The president had some serious confidence in you. That is why he put you there. You failed. And instead of bowing down your heads in shame and accepting the responsibility, you try to throw names around. I am not part of the names that he's going to. I have been director of operations since 2017. Okay, when the president set this committee up. Okay, the president in his own wisdom thought that he wouldn't want to add his director of operations to this committee. And so be it. Never ever. Okay? And I repeat it, never ever. In any case, I heard about some 2-3 weeks ago that he was throwing some wild accusations around, and the president had asked the CID headquarters to investigate that. Okay, so he should go there and face it. And then if he has the balls to mention my name, I would meet him there. Okay, he has to prove beyond reasonable doubts. I am not the type that people can just run around throwing my name around and get away with it. Especially so far as that his terms of reference of managing this whole very important operation is concerned. I am not part of it. I couldn't have been part of it, and he should come again.
Well, we'll get to that list of NPP bigwigs who are pointed to by the former minister. But we have Professor Appiagyei back on the line via phone now. Prof, thank you so much for doing us the honors, the courtesy. You were talking about addressing the matter through cabinet and what you felt about it right before the connection failed us.
Yes, thank you very much for reconnecting me. I think that, as I was saying, the cabinet, one way or the other, ought to have known about the report of the interministerial committee. And you cannot set up a committee, expect the committee to work, and you don't have any inkling of the happenings of the committee. And the only time you have a report of it is when the professor is alleged to have had a conversation with the chief of staff to talk about his wranglings and his informal discussions with the chief of staff. I think that is hitting below the belt. I think the government should not insult the intelligence of Ghanaians. You can put two and two together and easily infer that cabinet knew about this. It may not have been formal, but cabinet knew about this. It may not have been formal, but JoyNews, other networks have reported about this. If you go on YouTube, you find the information there. If you go on Facebook, it is there. If you go on various WhatsApp platforms, the information is there. So what the Professor Frimpong is saying is not something new that we don't know. So it is therefore a serious government. And it's also part of the mandate of the Minister of Information that he gleans through the newspapers and the online portals and so to know the major happenings in the country and report that to cabinet. So, and I think that's exactly what the Minister of Information was also saying. So, cabinet knows about it, and therefore it doesn't lie in the mouth of whoever wrote that piece, trying to rubbish what the former minister has said. It is simply disingenuous on the part of the government to do that. And I think Ghanaians deserve better. We need to know what is happening, and if it was to be in some other country, heads would have rolled by now. There is no way the former minister, will only be sidelined for everything that he wrote, that these are all falsehoods or hearsays and so on. So we should come again. Government should come again. Government should come again and accept some responsibility. Otherwise, we don't see how we can run a country and deal with this galamsey canker, which is affecting everybody in the country, in the environmental sense, in the area of human rights, in the area of the impact on the economy. People have been dislocated, some have been relocated. So many social vices being committed, social values themselves being degraded. And so we need to really speak to the issues in a more serious manner than the kind of feedback we are getting from the government.
Now, when you look at this game supposedly being played, the statement emerges, the report emerges, then there's a lot of talk about it from civil society to the media to the ordinary Ghanaian on social media. And then there is a call for an investigation. But while that is going on, even before we hear that supposedly this is all frivolous per the Jubilee House, that it is all hearsay, we have some castigation from the powers that be in different quarters. What does that say to you? How does it speak volumes about the purported fight against galamsey from where you sit, Prof?
Well, I think various organizations and individuals working on the galamsey issue have come out to say clearly that the government is not being serious about the galamsey fight. And we cannot deny that fact, except the government that is saying that it is doing the best it can, and the government, the president has an unassailable, is making unassailable efforts to deal with the Galamsey canker. But the results speak for itself. We have to look at the results. What has been achieved? So much money has been pumped into this exercise. The different soldier groups and bodies have been sent into this Galamsey zone. Some senior officers as well, and some have even lost their lives as a result of this. The Galamsey fight is not working. And we see somebody who was making efforts to make it work. That person's appointment was not renewed. It could be other reasons. But clearly, this gives you an indication that probably his appointment as minister was not even renewed because of the problem in quotes that he was creating within cabinet or within government circles. That, listen, this fight can only be won if you come on the side of the people, but you are on the other side. And it's because, as a political scientist said, politics is based on self-interest. But this self-interest, much as you will gain something extra by going to politics, it is not at the expense of the ordinary person. So as for the Galamsey fight, we all know it, that it is just being fought as a public relations thing. The committee, there have been committees and institutions and bodies set up by the government. And it is seen as being serious about attacking a particular problem. But at the end of the day, because when the problem is solved, it will benefit the larger society, but not the few people in government who are bent on fleecing the country. They put impediments in the way of such committees, and this is one of the such committees. Talk about Office of Special Prosecutor. The office needs money to be able to perform its work. The office has been stifled of money. You talk about SHASH. SHASH has also been muzzled because they don't get the resources they need. Talk about the enthusiasm and energy that the new IGP brought to the Ghana Police Service. That enthusiasm and that energy and that focus is dying out now. Talk about the court. Some decisions that have been made by the court are being questioned. So we don't seem to know where to turn to now. And the government needs to really sit up, and the talk has become too much.
All right.
And that it's not a good indication at all that the government is fighting the Galamsey money. Not only Galamsey, but others. But Galamsey is connected to the other problems. It's connected to corruption. It's connected to state capture. It's connected to efforts to undermine the integrity of certain institutions which are critical pillars for democracy in the country.
Just hold for me on that point, because there are other crucial areas I want us to tackle. But someone who has also taken a keen interest in this latest report and the development so far has been Kwabena Arthur Kennedy, Dr. Arthur Kennedy. And he is a former flag bearer aspirant of the party, parliamentary aspirant as well within the MPP. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Arthur Kennedy, all the way from the United States.
And good morning to all your panelists. Good morning to Ghanaians listening and watching.
I'm going to start on a rather interesting note because I've followed some conversations in the past and concerning your party, the NPP. Are you still a member? Just the start of the conversation, because sometimes people say that, hey, he's not even a member of our party. Don't refer to him as a bigwig or an MPP member. He is not. Just clarify for us this morning. Are you still a member of the NPP before we get to the substantive issue?
Member of the NPP, but for this conversation, I think what is required is to be a Ghanaian.
Okay, so you started by saying you are a member, but for this conversation, what is required to be a Ghanaian? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Now, let's get into the main meat of the matter. You've seen, undoubtedly, Professor Frimpong-Boateng's report. What do you make of it? even before we get into the surrounding issues, what do you make of that report?
I think it's a damning, substantive, fact-filled report, and the idea that it sat on the president's desk for 2 years is unimaginable and unfathomable.
Some have said that it was presented to the chief of staff and that the president may not have seen it. Some have even gone as far as suggesting that if Professor Frimpong-Boateng wanted this to gather the sort of steam he is putting out now, then he should have addressed it at the cabinet level. How do you respond to such concerns or comments?
Well, I mean, those saying that are not serious. To begin with, all around the world, everybody knows that when you hand a report to the chief of staff, it is as good as handing it to the president, unless the president wants to say he has no confidence in his chief of staff. As for presenting it at the cabinet level, at that time he had left the cabinet, so he couldn't have presented it to the cabinet. Furthermore, the report itself contains clear, unambiguous instances of him bringing up to the president the problems that the Interministerial Committee task force was having, particularly, for example, with regard to the senior minister, with regard to Sir John, with regard to a lot of others, and the president promising to address those. He didn't. So the idea that if he wanted to be serious, he would have presented it at the cabinet level, it's really a non-starter, and no serious person will say that. I think that not only that, I actually am happy that we're doing this on JoyNews, because you and your reporter Erastus Asaridonko did some very brave reporting in which you highlighted a lot of the problems in Galamsey. There were instances where two groups of military people almost came to blows, with one group with the Interministerial Committee, another group protecting the Galamseyers. And this was aired and everybody saw it. So the idea that this report has been on the blind side of the president is really a joke and an insult both to the president's intelligence and integrity as well as to Ghanaians.
Both to the president's intelligence and integrity. Why do you say that?
I mean, it is obvious that those making the argument are not serving him well. You know, when you say that a president's chief of staff has had a report for 2 years, but he didn't know about it, I mean, that's really not on. And secondly, I'm also saying that the reporting by Joy FM and other news outlets should have come to the attention of the president. So the idea that he didn't know about it is really something that serious people should not claim.
Earlier today, I actually interacted with Kojopoku, who interestingly is a flag bearer aspirant for the MPP come November. You've been in that position before, and he said that he didn't take this as allegations. In fact, for him, they were fact. Now, do you take everything in this report by Professor Frimpong-Boateng as the gospel truth?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but I would say that he has put on the table significant issues that require interrogation. I think some of them obviously are facts. Others we haven't verified, but, you know, for example, when he says that I had a problem with the senior minister and I reported him to the president said I would deal with it. You know, I had a problem with Gabi and I reported to the president and the president said he would deal with it. I think those can be taken as facts. I think the professor has put on the table substantive, reasonable, very verifiable facts on the table. And at this point, it is beyond speculation. And actually, it also begs the question about when the president himself pledged to put his presidency at stake to fight Galamsey, what he has done. And I can tell you that
A week after the president made that claim, I was talking to a friend of mine who is a seasoned journalist. I don't have permission to mention his name. He told me candidly that in his view, the president's claim that he was going to fight Galamsey was an empty boast. When I asked why, he said, quote, "There are too many big people in his family and in his government and in his party involved, and he does not have the balls to deal with them." Actually, we placed the bet, I on behalf of the president, that he will win. And now, when I go back to Ghana, I owe him the bet because he won it.
So this is quite an interesting picture you paint. I would like to ask you then, are you disappointed in the president based on what he said, that he would put his very presidency on the line to combat Galamsey, tackle it and bring it to its knees, versus what you're seeing now on which you've lost the bet? Are you disappointed in the president?
That's an understatement, and you should be disappointed too. I mean, I do not see any evidence anywhere that anything has been achieved in the Galamsey fight. Not only that, the repeated reports of powerful people in the government and in the party being involved in Galamsey, while we see our water bodies being dirtied and our environment being degraded, there is nothing positive about it. And I am heartbroken because I was so excited when I heard the president's promise.
Let's look at that recent statement you put out. You titled it "The Echoes of Galamsey in Ghana," and you start by saying, I'll let you expatiate on it, but you say Galamsey has come to symbolize, unfortunately, the capture of our governance by criminal elements bent on channeling public resources into private hands to our collective detriment. You go on and on. But I'd like to find out from you. You speak about this interesting bit that, ironically, even while the investigation ordered by the president was ongoing, there was a statement from the government seeking to undermine Professor Frimpong-Boateng and his report. Looking at how this is played out from the different parties, from the standpoint of Gabi Asare-Otrodako, the president's cousin, to ministers and others whose names have been mentioned, the likes of Lord Kome, a bigwig in the MPP, the likes of Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah, who has had cause to respond. I'm only bringing up these names because these are people who have come to the fore, responded, and all of that. What do you make of that game being played, and whether that shows any commitment from the presidency, and how you feel, for example, Mr. President should be addressing the issue from the standpoint of what he tells his subordinates, his ministers and others who have been pointed at?
Well, I don't even know where to start. I think that we are witnessing a full-blown demonstration of why our country and our governance has become a charade. There are people who believe that a lot of third world countries like Ghana and Nigeria and others that we keep bemoaning and wondering why things don't work are working the way those who control it want it to work. I believe that the purpose of our governance these days has been the transfer of public resources into private hands and control. And we are witnessing that full-blown. Not even one of those against whom allegations have been made in Galamsey have been interdicted. The excavators have disappeared and reappeared, the allegations of this. But at the end of the day, all those speculations don't matter. We can look on the ground and see how the rivers are being polluted. And I want to commend Joy FM for their very brave reporting. I think Erastus Basaldonko, I even feared for his life, standing between two groups of military men. And right now, questions we ought to ask is, aside from the Galamsey industry capturing the political space, the question is whether they have also captured the military and security space, and that we can no longer trust our security forces to enforce Ghana's laws. And what is happening right in front of our eyes is very sad, that we're destroying our environment so recklessly and nobody seems to be willing or able to do anything about it.
Now, there's this point, lest I forget. You speak about the attempts at impugning, the author of the piece in this recent piece that you put out. But some have also said, in firing back at Professor Frimpong-Boateng, some have said that he himself was mired in a way in illegal mining while he was minister. He has parried that, but does it matter to you that the author himself, if he is not whistle clean, would it matter to you, Doc?
A little bit, but I am a serious person. And I believe, the analogy I used is the equivalent of going to take an exam and you have questions, you have about 5 questions, and the 5th question is for 5 points. All the others are for 95 points. And then you are focused on, I've got to get this question which has 5 points right. Otherwise, I won't tackle the other questions. I think we need to know whether Professor Frimpong-Boateng himself is corrupt or has been involved in Galamsey. But that issue, the answer to that, would only underline the extent of the problem we face. Regardless of whether he himself is involved or not, I think we are beyond that. He has put on the table significant, credible, disturbing allegations, most of which are verifiable, independent of whether he himself is involved or not. I mean, whether he is involved or not will not change the fact that the president promised to deal with all these senior people he didn't deal with. Whether he is involved or not will not change the fact of whether people at Flagstaff House are involved or not. It will not change the fact of whether Galamsey was done right up to the president's backyard and it affected his garden. It will not affect the fact that senior party people are doing Galamsey or not. And we can verify all those things independent of whether or not the professor himself has clean hands. And I think we ought to be going on to do that. It will not change the fact that members of parliament are using their positions to get concessions so they too can do Galamsey. And more to the point, it will not change the fact that our river bodies and our environments are being destroyed right in front of our eyes.
A crucial point you make in this, and right before we get to that tall list or long list, you write, predictably, a network of interested parties have begun not to challenge the substance of the report, but to impugn the integrity of the author. That report, together with a bold and chilling documentary by JoyNews and Erastus Asaridonko, and you mentioned Kevin Taylor's recent expose, should trouble the conscience of every Ghanaian patriot. And it has sat on the president's desk for 2 long years. We Ghanaians must ask ourselves some important questions, and you go into those questions. But I'd like to find out from you, this bit about what you say, impugning the author rather than challenging the substance of what he says. If you've listened to the likes of Gabi Otredako, in fact, Kojopo Nkrumah found it a surprise that he was in there. Gabi Otredako has also had cause to respond to this. Why do you think they are attacking the author and not the substance of the matter?
Because maybe the substance is unassailable. That is my point. If Eko Ewusi, I think, says 80% of what the professor is saying is true, but he himself was involved, then which 80%? Let's deal with that. If somebody in the position of Gabi, who I am sure is a good lawyer, has toiled most of his life to make his cousin the president, and the president has pledged his presidency to fight Galamsey, yes, Galamseyers must be defended, but must they be defended by Gabi? I mean, isn't that a conflict of interest?
But he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer. I mean, it is reminiscent, if you'll permit me, of the Freddie Blay issue, where his chamber or whatever was representing someone supposedly, I think Aisha Huang or something of the sort. And some said, wait, he may be a member of the MPP, he may be a former chairman, but he's a lawyer, he's a practitioner, and he's free to do this. What do you make of it?
Yeah, but he's not the only lawyer in Ghana. I'm just saying that there is a huge conflict of interest. And there are people who have said, I don't have evidence of that, that maybe the reason why Gabi was the lawyer was not really because of his law skills, but because of his connections. I'm just saying that it's unseemly for people involved in Galamsey to be defended by Gabi when the very government, led by the person whose private lawyer and counselor he is pledged to fighting Galamsey. It's just not appropriate. That shouldn't be happening. And I also talk about all these other people who say, oh, most of what the professor is saying is true, but he is involved. What is it that he's saying that is true? Let's deal with that, so that afterwards, if you have evidence that he is involved, you can add to it. But whether he is involved or not does not change the fact that this fight against Galamsey is an abysmal failure.
You say the fight against Galamsey is an abysmal failure. Let's get into some of the points you raised. And Professor Appiah-Jay, just hold for me. I'll be coming to you shortly. I want you to take stock of the points that Dr. Arthur Kennedy makes, so that when I walk through them with him, I can come to you on the same points for you to give me your take. So back to you, Dr. Arthur Kennedy. You're right, and I'm not going to read all 9 or so of them. I'll just pick and choose a few. You can expand on them. You start by saying the questions that Ghanaians ought to be asking themselves or ourselves. 1, when the president pledged to put his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey, did he mean it? And did he fight? 2, when the president got this report 2 years ago, what exactly did he do with it? 3, looking at all that has happened since the president took office, is this president fighting Galamsey or fronting for it? You put those in caps, fighting and fronting. Then 4, are our security forces enforcing our laws or protecting those breaking our laws and destroying our environment? 5, are members of parliament committed to protecting our resources from criminals or just seeking their concessions to line their pockets? 6, are our traditional rulers true custodians of our wealth and lands and environment who will protect it for posterity, or accomplices of Galamseyers who are betraying us like their ancestors did to slave traders and colonialists? And that's a very important point you make, because traditional rulers have also been called out, but we've heard from the likes of the Asantehene Otumfuo II, and among others, talking about the fact that they have no real powers when it comes to this. We should look to the executive. So that's a crucial point. 7, is it moral for the cousin of the president, Gabi, to be defending Galamsey as while his cousin has pledged to put his presidency on the line to fight it? 8, why is it that whenever our governments come to crossroads between good and evil, moral ministers get sacked while corrupt ministers are retained? And final point, can small-scale mining be done legally without destroying our environment? What made you reflect on all of these, and what is your verdict after having penciled these 9 points? What is your verdict, Dr. Arthur Kennedy?
Well, I like you said, there are a lot of points there, but to my mind, there are 3 of them, or 4, that are very crucial. The first thing is whether the president has been fronting for Galamsey or fighting it. And I say this painfully, because my most exciting day was the day I saw him make that pledge that he was prepared to put his presidency on the line. I think that on the basis of the evidence we have, he has not been fighting Galamsey. As to whether he's been fronting for it, I don't have enough evidence to say that. But I am not persuaded that he has been fighting. That's on the president. The second point is that I think that all this sudden interest in Professor Frimpong-Boateng's report is really a PR exercise rather than an exercise in leadership and accountability. If they were going to do leadership and accountability, all the 2 years that the report has been sitting there, they would have dealt with it. The reason they didn't deal with it was that they didn't want to do anything about it. And right now, all what people are trying to do is to protect their legacies and their reputations rather than do something for Ghana. Then I go to the role of the chiefs. With all due respect to our chiefs, including respectfully Otumfuo, if the chiefs, regardless of whether they have power or not, decided that they were not going to let their forests and river bodies be polluted and poison poured into their waters, I am telling you, no executive authority will be able to stand in their way. And everybody knows that if the Asante said not 1 inch of a river in Ashanti will be polluted, and I will mobilize young men to go and defend the river bodies, regardless of authority they will be. And most of the chiefs in Ghana can do the same thing. Actually, a few of them, I'm told, are doing it. So respectfully, I just don't buy the idea that the chiefs have their hands tied behind their backs. If this was something they wanted to do, and it is something they should want to do, historically, morally, and ethically, if they wanted to do that, no authority would go over them to do it. And the last point about Parliament is that I think that these discussions we are having, it should be taking place in terms of parliamentary hearings so that we know what has been done, we know what hasn't been done, we know the state of our laws, we update it. If you go to Mali and Venezuela and a few other countries where they do small-scale mining without destroying the environment, you have to have a rigorous legal regime. You have to hold people accountable for breaking the law. You can't do it with a situation where you have an interministerial committee trying to stop the illegal mining, and then lands and mineral resource and others giving people permits to, in effect, undermine the very fight the government itself claims to be committed to. No, we are not serious.
Just hold for me, Doc, as we wind down on the conversation. I'd like to bring in Prof as well, and then we'll share our final thoughts on the way forward. Professor Appiah-Jay, listening to everything that has been dilated on by Dr. Arthur Kennedy and his 9-point on which he elaborates, in fact, he just elaborated a short while ago. What do you make of it, and what do you make of the 3 points he just shared with us? Hello, Prof.
Thank you. I think I've made this point before, and I will repeat it, that the criminals are becoming politically minded, and politicians are becoming criminally minded. And that is a very bad combination in the fight against the Galamsey menace we're talking about.
Just a quick point. Are you suggesting then that in a way we have criminals infiltrating our governance system? Do we have criminals in government?
What is Galamsey? Galamsey is an illegal act. And if you are committing an illegal act and the laws are clear in the Criminal and Other Offences Act, you are a criminal. So the fact that you have not been arrested and prosecuted doesn't mean that you are not. And we have a situation where the governance has been infiltrated by such criminal gangs and groups. And I've also made a point that Galamsey is an transnational organized crime, where it cuts across boundaries. There are networked groups that operate in that domain. And at the end of the day, it's not just the criminal activity they are engaging in. They affect the very fabric of governance in the country. Governance has now been diluted, and it's become a hybrid form of governance system that we have in the country. And there are state-embedded actors that are involved in this. If you are not ready to join the fray, you are cut out. And an example is what Professor Frimpong-Boateng is facing now. He's being fried for trying to do what is right. I mean, as has already been said by Doc, some of the facts are there. They are unimpeachable. And so you ask yourself, for example, what is the police doing? The police is supposed to fight these criminal activities. There was a clear case where Akunta Mines were fingered, and you would have expected that the police would at least call this the chairman of the Asante Regional NPP for questioning and for him to provide evidence contrary to what has been alleged that he's been engaged in. Erastus's report is there. There are so many reports by the media coalition and so on, and nothing is being done about it. And at the end of the day, we have a situation where the issue about the role of the chiefly authorities are also questionable, because they see some of these things going on in their communities on a daily basis. You also need to talk about the district assemblies, the municipal assemblies. They all know what is going on. So if you have a situation where government is unable to act, then it comes down to the influence such criminal minded people have put into the machinery of governments, and then the fact that they want to reap back what they have sown. And that is what state capture is about. It is no more the government that is running the show, but people who directly or indirectly have aided the government to come to power and is supporting the government in some other activities, and therefore they are running the show. Otherwise, there's no other explanation to postulate, to support the claim that what is going on is not being influenced by criminal activities. Because at the end of the day, when criminals are able to influence governments, they are able to prevent government from using its machinery to stop them from operating. And so if you're able to influence that and you're able to buy your way through, that is what gives you unfettered powers and unfettered authorities to do whatever you do with all the impunity that goes with it.
Just tell me, especially as you operate in the sphere of the law, heading into election 2024, what could this imply if literally criminal elements are infiltrating government? And even beyond 2024, what could that mean for our democracy, for the fight against state capture, as Dr. Arthur Kennedy makes mention of, among others? What do you think of that? Briefly on that, so we conclude.
Well, this is not the first time we are witnessing criminal involvement in politics, but it has been taken to a higher level under the NPP. The NDC did the same thing or did similar things. And if you go to places like Guinea-Bissau, which is called a narco state, police officers, ministers of state, even the president at the point in time were alleged to have been involved in narcotics deals and so on. So it's not something new. Some political scientists point to the way our financial campaigning structure in terms of finances that go into campaigning during elections are organized, because you need a huge amount of resources and people don't have it. Therefore, they propose, for example, that the state should sponsor political parties so that they will not be forced to rely on financiers, the godfathers, who at the end of the day will lurk behind the scenes and control the affairs, the destiny of the country. So going into 2024, the situation is not going to get any better. And one thing I've also realized about Ghanaian politics is that when one regime comes to power and does some bad things, the new party that replaces it or takes over power does not take serious efforts to deal with the problem, because they have identified a gold mine that they also want to dig into, and they dig deeper. So if you're not careful, and I'm not imputing any wrongdoing on any political party, but it may get worse whether NPP retains power or whether NDC comes to power. Because remember, Professor Frimpong-Boateng's report also identified some NDC activists involved in the Galamsey exercise. So it's not on only one side. But so long as the NDC has come to realize that this is how deep NPP could go, if they should come back to power, they may even dig deeper, and that is the worry.
As we wrap the conversation, I would like to go back to Gabi Asare-Otrudako and his own reactions. He speaks about the fact that Professor Frimpong-Boateng deliberately twisted his mediation to cause public disaffection for him. But Prof comes back to say, Mr. Gabi Otrudako, it is laughable that you claim to have called me to seek information on your client. If you needed any information, you could have called the Minerals Commission. You know I did not operate mining information services. He goes on to add, you called to tell me that your client had a valid mining license and all necessary permits. I told you that Heritage Imperial Company Limited did not possess documents permitting it to undertake active mining. That notwithstanding, through your intervention, the Chinese who were arrested were released by the task force. The many soldiers who were providing security services to your client's company attacked the IMCIM task force team and damaged the vehicle carrying journalists who were covering the IMCIM operations. The unfortunate scenes were captured on camera and shown on JoyNews. You can check out the rest of the story on myjoyonline.com. But gentlemen, for both of you, and I'll start with Dr. Arthur Kennedy on this. What do we need? Further investigations. The Galamsey issue is broad, but on this specific matter tied to Professor Frimpong-Boateng, what do we need? Further investigations, and where do we go from here? I'll start with you, Dr. Kennedy.
I think that we need to have hearings by Parliament. I do not trust the CID to properly investigate this. I think that they are compromised and too beholden to the government. And the investigation should not be just to assign blame. It should be to look at how we can make small-scale mining legal, environmentally sound, and beneficial to our country. The second thing is that I am very concerned about the idea of state capture. I think that we are watching the unraveling of this Fourth Republic and our country. So I urge all Ghanaians not to sit on the sidelines. My fellow Ghanaians, we are the men we have been waiting for. If we don't do this, nobody else will do it, and they are destroying our country right in front of our eyes. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kobina Arthur Kennedy, joining us all the way from the United States. He's a former contender for the flag bearership slot of the MPP, as well as a parliamentary slot as well. We're grateful so much for your time, Dr. Kennedy. Let me take the final words of Professor Appiagyei on this matter. Same questions to you.
I endorse what Professor Kennedy has said, that a parliamentary probe, a probe from a parliamentary probe will help deal with this canker that we are confronted with. And I also want to call for looking at the roots of the problem. And for me, the root of the problem lies in campaign financing. If you're able to plug the holes as to who finances a political party, if political parties are made to account for after every election, how much they've spent, and at the end of every year or so, according to the rules, the laws that deal with political parties, I think we'll be able to plug some of the loopholes whereby, and then we'll also look at the possibility of states funding political party campaign activities. We should be as stringent as we are, for example, the situation we have in the US, where it can lead to even criminal prosecutions for campaign financing issues. So that will help deal with the matter one way or the other. And I think it's also important that people should look at issues, not just personalities and not just political parties, because sometimes when you make these commentaries and you want to bring out the problems, the reaction seems to be that So long as my party in power, I don't care. And so the fact that our democracy needs to move to a higher level is highly recommended, so that we look at issues, not just personalities or parties, and to be able to properly inform as to who we vote for. That will make a difference, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Professor Appiagyei, for having joined the conversation. Professor Appiagyei Etua, of course, a lecturer at the Faculty of Law of the University of Ghana. Ghana, we've come to the end of this conversation on Professor Frimpong-Boateng's take, his report on the state of galamsey in our country. It dates back to 2 years ago. And interestingly, when you take a look at the report, a lot of what he says, the dynamics are still at play, if not worse at play. And of course, he mentions names. Only time will tell how the situation pans out. But right as I get ready to take a breather, take a sip of water, you know what I'm going to be sipping on. Water is life, and Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And no matter what you're looking for, you're covered. If you're looking for 330 or 500 ml bottles, maybe something that can fit into your child's backpack or their lunch bag, you're sorted. If you're a big drinker, you want 750 milliliters or 1.5 liters, you're catered for as well. But wait, how about if you're at your office or at home? You need something even bigger. They've got you covered too. They have their 19-liter jar bottles, which are ideal for those situations. So all you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water and get yourself nourished. Choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water today and get quality hydration. It's one for life as well. Now, something I find very heartwarming. For every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center as a token to contribute to those who cannot afford treatment. It's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. If you'd like to purchase in bulk, just call them on 0262 351 251. 0262 351 251. This advert, of course, is FDA approved. We're taking a breather. When we return, look forward to my interaction with Swiss ambassador to Ghana, Simone Giga. She talks about matters arising, what lessons we can learn from Switzerland, and what she thinks, basically, about our food, our music, and more. All of that after the break. Stay. Thank you for joining us. We're here in the home of, I'll be telling you whom shortly, but she has 18 years of experience in international cooperation, diplomacy and management, where in her residence, she represents Switzerland in Ghana. She's in the person of Her Excellency Simone Giga. She's been gracious enough to host us this morning as we get interactive. Simone, good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin.
I think it's only fitting we...
And kudos, really congratulations to you. You perfectly spelled my name, so not many people in Ghana can do that. Well
right,
well
Simone Giga. I'm sure a lot of people struggle with the name.
Well, it's normal. I also struggle with Twi, so...
You know, at a point, I'll be finding out how many Twi words you've learned so far.
No, please
or
don't.
local language words
Please don't.
So far.
Don't.
Anyway, but it's going to be a very easy conversation. I'd like to start off with you telling us a bit about yourself. Who are you? I've mentioned that you have 18 years of experience in this space, but who is Simone Giga?
Yes, you said a lot about it already, and actually I guess by fall this year it will be 19 years of experience, because I've added the year in Ghana now. And I've been in Ghana since August last year.
Okay.
It's my first ambassadorial position. Before that, I was 4 years in Bern. I was heading the global program on migration and development at Switzerland's Agency for Development and Cooperation. And before that, actually, I spent almost all of my career abroad. So I was in, if I counted correctly, in 7 different countries, mostly in the former Soviet Union, Eastern Europe. So now for the first time posted in Africa.
I was just about to ask that. So
exactly.
This is your very first time in Africa.
Exactly,
wow.
exactly.
And you have experience from the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
That goes
post-Soviet Union. I'm right. Not that old, so yeah.
So that's a very interesting background that you have, and of course we're glad to have you on the continent as well to share your wealth of experience. But what has your experience been, especially as this is your first time in Africa and you've come to Ghana? What has the experience been like? How have you found Ghana? Everything from food to drinks to the people. What has Ghana been like for you?
And I will speak for myself and my family, right? So because we're in this together. So I think Ghana is really a country that like sucks you in a good way. It has been very welcoming. Of course, there have been many news in my life, right? So it's a new continent, new country, new title, new job description, like new home, new school for the kids. So a lot of news. So it can be quite overwhelming. And I think it would be overwhelming for anyone, right? So it has been a struggle, but that is more like because of the entire constellation. But then, as I said, I think the fact that Ghana is like so open, and also I'm also talking about the diplomatic community. You know, I felt very much welcome, and through that, after less than a year, I can really say now I feel at home. And you said also, you know, talk about the food and the experiences. Yeah. So I really also tried to venture out, although it has been incredibly busy, and I wouldn't have to leave Accra because it's never a dull day here, I feel. I said, no, I really want to go out and see the country, because every country is more than it, almost every country, unless you're very small, is more than its capital, right? So I really tried to venture out, and when we venture out, I also tried to eat a bit like the local food and really experience Ghana to the fullest.
What have you tried, local food?
Oh God! So I hope I see now where it already starts with the
you can describe them.
Right. Of course, we fufu a lot. We have it once a month. So my family, the kids, of course, they love the fact that you can eat it with the hands. You know, just that for them. Right. It's an experience. Then I like vache a lot.
Vache. Okay. The rice and beans mix.
Yeah. Right. I know what it is. It's just a. Then egusi, is that how you say it? It's like made out of pumpkin seeds.
Yes.
So I like that.
What do you have it with? Because it usually goes with eba or doughy dishes.
Yeah, something. I think I had it with banku. I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure. And then I had a lot of guinea fowl when I was in the north. Of course, jollof, not to forget. So. Yeah, I think I had quite a good impression of that.
It's like you've had a swell time. You should, but since you've tried wache, maybe Ghana jollof should also be on your menu moving forward. But tell me, just because you brought it up, before we move on to the next question, since you're so busy, it just hit me. What is a regular day like for you?
Oh wow, like, you know what really is great about my job and what attracts me to it with all the stress is that there is no regular day, right? Like every day is different.
It comes with its own.
No, and sometimes also, you know, you plan and then like something comes in between, or like you know, or you're called to parliament, or you have to see a minister. So these things are not plannable, right? They come at the last minute. Or headquarter asks you, you know, we want you to see this and that person to talk on this and that. So it's not really plannable, but a lot of my normal day is really about meeting people, getting to know the country, of course also learning about the country, and then because at one point I'm expected to report back to my headquarters, because whatever like I report back will then be part of our like strategy towards Sub-Saharan Africa. So, but a lot of interactions, a lot of really getting to know the country. And then when I say interactions, it's really at all levels. So it's, of course, government is the main counterpart, but then also with the private sector, with civil society, with interesting persons in Ghana.
I also know you've traveled a lot. The last time we had an interaction, you know, before this interaction, you told me you had been to 10 out of our 16 regions. Have you added to that number yet? tell us, what has the experience been like as you've gone
I
round?
haven't added to that number yet, but you know what? I think it was very good that I forced myself to go out there, because when you have a lot to do, it's always hard to take time and really say, no, I go on that trip no matter what. Because what I learned about Ghana is that, you know, you travel in one direction and you get like one Ghana, right? We went to the Volta region, and there you have like the lush, you know, forest, jungle, and you feel like, oh, I'm in a different Ghana, right? Then you travel west and you have, of course, the historic sites, you have the beaches, and you're like, oh, that's so different. Then I went north, and you have like savannah, and also the food is different. Yeah. The people look different, you know, the clothes they wear are different, the traditions are different. So for me, it was really a kind of an eye-opening experience to say like, wow, you know, there are so many little Ghanas in the bigger Ghana, and the fact that that you know you exist as a nation, and all this diversity is contained in one, that I find like really, really impressive.
And Switzerland itself has its own diversity in different ways, from flora, fauna to the population itself.
Absolutely.
And maybe some other time we'll get into the details of that. But looking at our bilateral relations, Ghana, Switzerland. In fact, on the very day of Ghana's independence, Switzerland, you know, acknowledged that a country called Ghana existed. I think the first missionaries, the Basel missionaries, came to our shores in 1828, thereabouts.
And that's the figure I have, yes. Exactly.
And since then, there has been some sort of relationship between Switzerland and Ghana. We'll talk about the trade end, but what does this really mean, this relationship, Switzerland and Ghana? For which reason you're even present in the country?
You know, so you just mentioned it, 1828, so almost 200 years, right? So it has been a very long relationship. And what I've learned in my first months here, that I believe it has been really a very positive and strong relationship. So all really the reactions I get when I mention the Basel missionaries are like outright positive. So there's a lot of goodwill from the Ghanaian side towards Switzerland, and I hope, of course, that we can reciprocate that goodwill. You know, then that the relations have just grown in terms of the scope of what Switzerland does here in the country. So you mentioned we basically recognized Ghana on the day of independence, and then 3 years later, in 1960, we opened a full-fledged embassy. And then since then, especially in the last few years, we have really broadened our cooperation with Ghana. So political relationships, I think, are at a very good level. Your president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, visited Switzerland in 2020 on a state visit, and it was actually only the third sub-Saharan president, you know, that was given that honor. So that just speaks of how close our relationships are. And then our federal councillor, Sionetta Somauga, at that point in time, she came to Ghana the year after, and we signed a bilateral cooperation agreement, we signed a climate protection agreement. So right now, you know, at this moment in time, we really have so many different activities. So I said, like, we have political relations, we have economic trade relations. You said we would talk about that. We have the climate protection agreement, which, by the way, is really a first in the world. So Ghana and Switzerland are the first two countries that concluded a climate agreement under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement.
Right.
And that's really something that I believe also speaks to the strength of our relations. And then,
in fact, our president heads the climate vulnerable group.
Absolutely,
group of countries.
Absolutely. And
I remember last year he represented us in the Netherlands at an event where I was, and that really came to the fore.
And you have brilliant experts here in Ghana. So my colleagues, like the technical experts, when I talk to them, you know, and I always ask, like, you know, why Ghana? Why? And they're all excited. They said, well, because they have really good people, you know, at the technical level, in the ministries, in the agencies. So the cooperation at the working level is very, very good.
I have a sweet tooth. I don't know whether you do. The last time I came, we had chocolate. And
oh la la, we have to.
I know about 47% of the cocoa used for chocolate in Switzerland comes from Ghana. On that plane, what has the relationship been like, and what, I mean, in the future, could Ghana look forward to?
It's even more. The figure I have is more than 60%.
I see.
You know, and Switzerland sources most of its cocoa from Ghana because it's of very good quality, and I hope that doesn't get me in trouble with any other neighboring countries. But Ghana is known
I think that is a well-known, it's
exactly,
a global fact.
It's a global, okay, it's a
global
fact, right? So, so we source a lot of our cocoa from Ghana, and I always say our, you know, world-renowned chocolate is only what it is thanks to the Ghanaian cocoa. Well, not only, but it's a very important ingredient. So what we try to do, we have in Switzerland a so-called a Swiss platform on sustainable cocoa. It has more than 80 members, and it's really like a multi-stakeholder platform. You have civil society, you have the private sector cocoa producers, you have government entities in there. And we have actually established a dialogue here with the Cocoa Bot, but then also with, like, we try to more and more integrate integrate also civil society, private sector here into the dialogue. And through our cooperation program, we really try to finance programs that are like tailor-made to the situation in Ghana, that are in line with Ghana's needs, and they can be, there's a disease called, and I hope I get it right, the swollen shoot disease that affects
swollen shoot disease.
Swollen shoot
cocoa
disease,
pods,
exactly.
Right.
So, like Switzerland, together with Ghana and the Creek at Cocoa Bot, they try to develop like new measures on how to detect and treat that disease. Or we have also activities like trying to prevent child labor. Then we have initiatives in agroforestry, you know, how to make cocoa production more sustainable. So a lot of cooperation, and I think what is very important is that we have these this kind of, I don't know how you say it in English, like eye to eye, like, you know, or arm's length relationship, and we start with the dialogue, and we really try to see what Ghana needs in that area, and what is the expertise we can provide.
At the tail end, I would like to find out, I mean, much later about what you look forward to in respect of that. But in terms of economic cooperation, I mean, again, long-standing. If I recall, in 2020, the trade between the two countries, at least from Ghana's end, was about 2.9 billion. And that was about 97% of the trade. And it was more focused on gold.
Yeah.
From your end, we get pharmaceuticals, machinery, and all of that. Now that you're here in Ghana, I'm sure there's a lot more that we can do. What are you looking at on the economic, plane?
You know, it's, as you said, like Ghana is actually Switzerland's number 2 or 3 trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa, depending on the year you look at. And as you said, it's mostly gold, because the gold goes actually to Switzerland, and Switzerland refines 2/3 of all the gold in the world, right? So that's in a way not a natural process. It goes to Switzerland, it's refined, and then it's exported from Switzerland. But when you come here, and we have about 50 Swiss companies, you know, that set up their shop here in Ghana, and there are new ones coming also, and they're like, you mentioned it, in the pharmaceutical industry, of course. You have Nestle, everybody knows Nestle, they're producing here in Ghana. We have the chemical industry. We have some companies, smaller ones, in mining, in oil and gas. So it's really very diverse, and that's also what I like. Looking for, you know, when I came here, you know, so before August last year, I really thought, Ghana, thanks to its stability, macroeconomic stability, but also political stability, would actually be a very good entry points for companies, right, willing to invest in Africa. So we had big plans on attracting more investments from Switzerland. And then, you know, like August, the situation was not really very favorable. So we really hope that now with the forthcoming IMF agreement, it will stabilize again. And then we can really talk about, bringing more investments in the country. But so far we have more been probably busy, with I wouldn't say calming, but making sure that the investors that are now in Ghana, the Swiss investors, that they can cope with the situation in an adequate manner.
Right, so you just made mention of the IMF, and you know where Ghana is now. We're seeking a bailout, we're seeking an approval of our program. But in terms of Switzerland, one of the biggest economies across the world, and you have quite a bit of a history, small country, but you've made waves across the world. On the economic front, what do you think are the lessons Ghana could learn from Switzerland? So maybe, of course, we don't end up at the doorstep of the IMF one more time.
Mm-hmm. I don't know whether it's about lessons to be learned and all that. I'm not here as a teacher, but what I can tell you is a bit about the elements of what I call like the Swiss success model, and how we developed and how we somehow maintained that stability over quite some time. And I believe they're like economic and political ingredients to that. So on the economic side, when we think back like 200 years ago, Switzerland was a poor country. People were like emigrating, they were like, there was famine, So we have a lot of emigration. And then at one point there came like the turnaround, and it had a lot to do with infrastructure, like investment in infrastructure. And then actually what a lot of people don't know, like the Swiss banking system, was in a way a side product of like the fact that Switzerland needed money to build the railways, so they established like the Swiss banks, right? So that was
which are world famous.
Well, which are world famous, exactly. So, but it was a byproduct of the infrastructure and like the connectivity. Since we are very mountainous, it was extremely important that we could get to all and very diverse, that we could connect all the parts of Switzerland. So that was like in a way, the precondition for development. And then later, I think. On the economic side, what is very special about Switzerland is that we have quite liberal framework conditions, so that I would call it like a soft touch approach by the government, and we leave a lot actually to the private sector, to develop, to thrive, they know best. So, and at the same time, we have a very close cooperation between the public and the private sector. And one case in point is, for instance, our vocational education system that we call dual, right? And that actually a lot of countries are interested in, where you don't just get a theoretical education, but actually you spend 2 to 3 days of your week as a trainee, you spend in an enterprise, and you learn your trade, your profession on the job with the mentor.
So there's a technical end to it.
Absolutely, right. and very close. We also have very close cooperation between public and private sector when it comes to research and development. Investing in innovation. So all this is really part of the package. And then I also said I believe a large part of the story is actually political in nature. So it's our political system that, of course, I'm Swiss and I'm the ambassador. I think it's a tremendous system, but it is so unique, and it's so geared towards Switzerland's needs. So we do have parliamentary democracy, but then we have direct democracy, which means that citizens in Switzerland, like 4 times a year, every 3 months, they can vote of issues of concern.
4 times a year.
4 times a year.
So every
exactly.
3 months.
Every 3 months, if I'm not completely mistaken. Yes, but it's frequent. So you go and you vote, and that of course constrains a bit the freedom of the parliamentarians, and there's always an additional level of accountability if you want so, because if you're not very happy with what your politicians do, you can actually overturn part of that, right? And then we also have a very decentralized political system. So we are a federation, and then we also give a lot of power to our municipalities. And we have a brilliant principle that is called subsidiarity. And it means that you try to solve a problem at the lowest possible level.
So don't let it escalate. If you can solve it,
exactly,
the lowest level,
and then you go to the next level. Like I always say, like municipal waste management, right? It's municipal. So how we solve it, we transfer the money to the municipality. They solve the issue. Then there's other things like education, right? You cannot have like 2,500 municipalities and each with their own education system. So education is actually managed at the regional/cantonal level, right? And then there are issues like national security, foreign policy, all that. Again, doesn't make sense to have that at every canton, so we have it at the national level.
Quite an interesting setup, and we've had our own stints with decentralization and all of that. And like you mentioned, it's interesting you make the point. 200 years ago, Switzerland wasn't what we know it now. We're only 66 years. There's a lot more we wish we could have done, but we know that it's a gradual process as well, and we'll definitely get there. But this being your first year in Ghana, what has the relationship been like with other members of the diplomatic corps? In fact, you have a caucus. What has your experience been like with your brothers and sisters, your colleagues who are also representing their own countries in Ghana?
I think that was really part of that positive experience that I mentioned in the beginning. And you know, especially when you're a first-time ambassador, you don't really know the ropes yet. So you need a lot of advice and support from your colleagues, and that has been completely forthcoming. And of course, I really appreciate the fact that we have so many female ambassadors in Ghana. You know, there's a Women in Diplomacy Index, and Ghana was actually among the top 10 countries, which means, like, you know, if you look at the percentage of female ambassadors to the overall number of ambassadors, so Ghana, I think, is even top 5, right? So there's a lot of female peers here from whom I can learn, and I, you know, I never feel left alone. So if I have an issue that I cannot solve, I know exactly whom to contact, and I know this person will be helping me in solving the issue. So no, I mean, the diplomatic community is really, I think Ghana attracts good people, you know, maybe we can put it like that.
We're good to hear that. But since you're talking about women, let me just sneak in this bit. I know women's empowerment is something that you're passionate about. In fact, for the first time, we have a head of mission being you as a woman. Your deputy head is also a woman. The head of chancery is a woman. First time that we're having such a situation. What does this mean to you, and what more would you like to see on that front? Not just from the Swiss context, but from what you've seen so far in Ghana as well.
You know, it's actually quite a lucky coincidence, because I didn't select the people, right? So, but I have to say, also for Switzerland, it's unfortunately still quite unique to have such a setup, you know, an all-female management team, but I'm of course happy, and I hope we can prove that, you know, we can do the job as good as any man, or maybe even better. We will see, we will judge that after like 4 years. But of course I would like to see more of that, right? And it doesn't have to be all females. I think what the research shows is that diverse teams are the best, right? But we had so many all male teams in the past, so it's fine from time to time to have also an all female team. And I'm really passionate about women empowerment, because, and also when I travel, when I go out, I always try to also meet with women. You know, I do like a special outreach to get to know women, and there are so many smart, intelligent, powerful women in this country. But they are not necessarily seen, right? Or not, well, they are seen, but not collectively, right? So maybe something where, you know, again, it's not up to me, but something where I may want to make a contribution is really in trying to facilitate, you know, different women from different walks of life, you know, connecting and getting together and growing stronger through that. So that's something I'm passionate about. Of course, my contribution will be minor, but if I can serve as a host, as a facilitator, I'm very happy to do that.
So I know that you follow the creative space a lot in Ghana. I've been watching your Twitter post. I've seen that you've engaged quite a number of people. You've had an encounter with Black Sheriff, and you even go into sports. You were interacting with our goalkeeper, Lawrence Atizigi, and enjoying Kofi Brookman. That's what we call it, the roasted plantain with groundnuts. I found that hilarious.
Yes.
Anyway, so tell us how you enjoyed that meal. Tell us about your engagements with the creatives and others in Ghana. And maybe, what's your taste in music? Which artists have you listened to in Ghana?
Okay, good. Oh, a lot of questions. So, you know, why do I meet with people, again, like from different backgrounds, different walks of life? I think that's, you know, like, again, I wanna get to know the real Ghana in its diversity, and also meet, like, of course, my first counterpart is government, but then I learned a lot, really, meeting with these people. When you talk about musical taste, so with Black Sheriff, it was really like me reaching out, because I felt there was something very raw in his music, and he was speaking from his soul, right? So I wanted also to get to know him, not only because I like the music, but just the fact that he's from Konongo Zongo, he's like Muslim minority, and then what he went through in his life. I thought he really has a story to tell, right? And I felt also that he's someone who has a kind of a social consciousness. He wants to do something for his country. So that's, you know, for me it's always, and also in my taste in music, I like any type of music, you know. I couldn't tell you, you know, I'm into hip hop or Afro beats or whatever, but then I guess in the different genres, then I have some artists I connect to, and I hope, of course, to meet more in the future. Then with Ziggy, Ziggy is, of course, I don't know if you know, but he's a superstar in Switzerland, right? So like when I went back over Easter holidays, and then my friends in Switzerland saw on Twitter that I met Ziggy, they were like so jealous. They said, I can't believe that you're meeting him, and he gave me the signed shirt, jersey, and so with him it was really, we have that relationship. He plays in a club that is like 20 minutes from my hometown, right? So it's like even more than just Switzerland, it's like next door, right? So we could exchange on life in Ghana, life in Switzerland, food. That's how we ended up at the joint, basically. We were talking about food and what Swiss food he enjoys and what Ghanaian food I enjoy. And,
did you enjoy the Kofi Brookman?
And we realized that I haven't had roasted plantain yet, you know.
Right.
I liked it, especially with the peanuts on top. So the combination was really good. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's been pretty interesting, this conversation. But just to cap it off, what next can we expect from Simone Giga? No one knows how long your stay in Ghana is going to be. I'm sure after that you'll still have many more experiences, hopefully on the African continent, so you get to know more about us. But what can we expect from you, and what legacy would you like to leave behind when that time comes for you to knock off, leave Ghana?
Again, I don't think it's about legacy and about me. It's about Switzerland, right? So I'm representing my country. Of course, I try to give it my personal touch. So it's all about, like, first of all, maintaining the excellent relations we have with Ghana, and then strengthening them. And I think my personal touch is really, you know, to also increase these people-to-people contacts, you know, to make our two countries connect at that level. And then, like, the topics, the issues I'm passionate about, right? So I really want to, like, leave maybe a trace or like a footprint, you know, in women's environment, women's empowerment. Then I'm also passionate about environmental protection, recycling. We do a lot here at the embassy. We work with different, like, youth groups. And again, I see the embassy more as a connector, like bringing different strands, groups, movements together. That's also then also the link with climate protection, you know, if you really can move that agreement forward and say, like, you know, Ghana, Switzerland together, champions in fighting climate change, that's wonderful. And then also, you know, because I'm really attracted to the creative sphere, so we were also thinking about, like, bringing women empowerment together with, like, giving it a creative angle, and maybe also, like, supporting female musicians, artists, like let them network among each other. These are a bit like the highlights maybe that I would like to set in my years to come.
Well, all the best with that. More power to your elbow. Environmental issues are crucial in Ghana. There's also women's empowerment, and there's a lot more that we all project can be done in parliament, in governance, in so many areas. So we wish you the best on that journey. Simone Giga, you speak French, and
yes.
German is your first language.
German is my first language.
So I think it's only fitting as we cap off the conversation. Simone Giga, merci beaucoup.
Merci
Dankeschön.
beaucoup à vous. Ah, dankeschön. Wow.
I saved that for last. Thank you very much for joining us for this conversation with Her Excellency, the Swiss Ambassador to Ghana, Simone Giga. Welcome back. It's yours truly on the AM show. We're good. We're glad actually to have you joining the conversation. Right from here, it's going to be you telling us what your thoughts are on the discussions we've had so far this morning. Remember, we had that discussion earlier with Kojopoku, energy analyst. He was telling us about what he felt about this Professor Frimpong-Boateng expose, if you like. I think in a way we could call it that. That report and the different chess game players that we've seen, pulling their punches here and there. But then we also had the substantive conversation with Dr. Arthur Kennedy, a stalwart of the MPP. I started the conversation off with him by asking him whether he still belonged to the MPP, because there are some who have said he's no longer a member of the MPP. The MPP USA came out to say he wasn't a member and all of that. He says he is a member. And of course, he has that piece he's put out there on the developments surrounding Professor Frimpong-Boateng's take on why he was ousted, on those in government who apparently are mired in galamsey. Then we had Professor Appiagyei Etua, a law lecturer at the University of Ghana. So quite an interesting discussion we've had this morning on that subject matter. But then again, I just had an interaction with the Swiss ambassador to Ghana, Her Excellency Simone Giga. Interestingly, she likes Kofi Brokeman. Yeah, she had that with Lawrence Hatizigi, goalkeeper. So just share with us what your thoughts are on the discussions we've been having this morning. And another bit of interest, you see the UPSA video where one is caning the other person. If you have any thoughts on that as well, you can share with me. But let's start with Sammy from Nima, who joins the conversation. Sam, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Akakpo. How are you?
I am well. I'm very well. How about you?
It's been a while.
It has. Good to hear from you.
Oh, fine. My concern is about the galamsey issue, the Professor Frimpong-Boateng report. I think I totally agree with the Prof interview from the University of Ghana. In fact, they shouldn't, undermine the intelligence of Ghanaians. We are all here. You are stationed here. Show us documentary where some policemen went to a galamsey site just to encounter some people, and then a policeman made a call. A soldier made a call, and another group came. To sack them. We've seen all this. And if the big men are not involved, how can this happen? Two, we have seen videos that have shown people involved in galamsey, but the president refused to take action. And lastly, when this report gets to the president for the past 3 years, why didn't they say anything about it? And today, when the thing is out, they are trying to play, games with our minds that they are not. Even if the explanation given us is laughable, I think we should allow for independent investigation to go into this thing. Before people can come out, we should allow them to come out. Just tell us we should deal with the report with contempt. We should not. Trying to disregard this. I think Ghanaians are far away. We know what is happening. If you do the connections, you can see clearly they are guilty of this thing. So they should apologize, especially you, the media, who create a platform for them for this campaign against Galamsey, and then they end up, betraying you. Have a blessed morning.
Thank you, Sam from Nima, for sharing your thoughts. Let's go to Lambert from a bit close by, Awashi. Lambert, good morning. What are your thoughts for us?
Good morning, boss.
Yes, Awo, what are your thoughts for us?
Please, I want to have a say about the student beating harassment and UPSC.
Right, go ahead.
Please, so that student, is it the mother or a caretaker or what?
It's another student.
Wow. And you touch somebody just like that, and other people are just standing doing it.
And just so you know, she's been dismissed.
Wow. Okay, that's good. And can you please educate me about a little bit about Gabi Ochedako? Who is he?
About what?
Gabi Ochedako. Who is he exactly?
I think we all know that. He's a legal practitioner. He's cousin to the president.
House of Ghana for a while now. It is just sending the piece. You see, I just don't know. I'm really shameful, man. Things that is happening is very weird and very bad. They know about it, but they refuse to tell the truth. Some of us are very emotional. Eh? When you look at the Galamsey and stuff that's happening. The last time I visited Kolegu, people are dying. And our big men are just there using expensive cars. They don't even care. When you journalists go on the street and bring the story out, they're trying to look at it, you guys are not working. God help God.
Well, God indeed help Ghana. But what are your thoughts for us? You can share them via the phone line 0302-211-691. 0302-211-691. What do you think? And there's an interesting portion of what Dr. Arthur Kennedy says. He calls on Ghanaians 9 points to question ourselves on a number of matters. If you know, if you have this expose or this piece by Dr. Kennedy, you can share with us. But we have Kweku from Adenta, is it? Kweku from Adenta. Kweku, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Ben. So my comment is very simple. I think that we should also, as it were, raise the standards when it comes to, people raising allegations about corruption and all that. Because personally, I think Professor Frimpong-Boateng's, report it will not pass the test of objectivity, for instance. Because why are we not questioning the fact that he was the chairman of the committee when he was named the chairman? What, if you like, standard policy? Then did you ever see a policy, roadmap guiding the fight against Galamsey, and the fact that as a whole professor, you see, the report is full of, if you like, emotion, right? So yes, some people might have been named and all that, but you see, this approach of fighting corruption in all humility, it won't help. Didn't he know? The fact that he didn't even know that a time like this will come and that he will name people and people will resist, for me, is very problematic. He ought to have known that in this country, you have been put in charge of a corruption fight of this magnitude, and the processes and procedures, the policies, the standards were not there. You are not. It's like his name was mentioned as chairman of a committee, and then straight away you went ahead, fighting Galamsey. No, it doesn't work that way. Some standards, procedures, right? And the nature of the report, you should have been because it is facts that you are presenting. We don't know the truth. As somebody will say, you and I were not there. So you see, the standard of the report beyond reasonable doubt. Unfortunately, in my opinion, he has not done that. But of course, that does not negate the fact that we should look into the people who have been named and all that. Yes, thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you, Kweku from Adenta, for calling and sharing your thoughts on this matter. Do you have a say? Do you have a take? Of course you have a say. Do you have a take on these matters that we've been discussing? The lines are active and you can call while there still is time. Make hay while the sun still shines. In this case, it would be pick your phone and call while there still is time. The number to call is 0302-211-691. It appears most people want to talk about the Galamsey related issue. Professor Frimpong-Boateng, his what he puts out there as the gospel in terms of why he was ousted from office and the dealings supposedly of those in power, those who walk the corridors of power, those tied to this administration. You can share your thoughts with us on that. You could also, as I made mention of, that caning incident at the University for Professional Studies, Accra, which has gone viral. You can share your thoughts with that incident. Now, that lady in your shot who is actually caning the other lady for supposedly accusing her of sleeping with lecturers for grades has been dismissed. But I ask, beyond that, what legal remedies are available? She's whipping her like her own child, almost. And that is the development there. Very sad, really sad development. This morning, one of our guests, Kojo Poku, said that we should stop filming such incidents and rather go to the assistance of people in need, which I agree with to some extent. But again, like a senior colleague of mine rightly mentioned, it is through filming such incidents that we saw what happened, for example, to George Floyd. And so it's a two-way street. Both must be adhered to. But we have a caller on the line. Let's get to that caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Please, my name is Benjamin, final year student, KNUST.
Benjamin, final year student, KNUST. What are your thoughts for us? Even if you're not going to talk about the UPSA caning incident, since you're a student, I would like your take on that as well.
So let me start with the Galamsey issue. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, so my take on the Galamsey issue is that sometimes if you sit back as a young Ghanaian and then you look at some of the things that is going on, then you worry about because if you look at this whole issue about the Galamsey, how it started, and then the promises that the Akufo-Addo government gave as to how it's going to solve the issue, and you look at what is happening now, I believe that we have failed as a nation in solving the issue. And then I also think that going forward, there should be proactive measures in place. Because if you look at the professors,
we appear to have lost Benjamin even before he could share his full thoughts and also talk about the UPSA issue. Benjamin, we still have a little time. I think in the next 2 minutes we'll be concluding on the show, so you still have time to reconnect with us. But what is your take? You can also call that number at the bottom of your screen, 0302 211 691, 0302 211 691, if you have any thoughts you'd like to share with us, and we shall take it from there. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Your name, where are you calling from?
My name is Robert. I'm calling from Tema.
Robert, go ahead.
Yes. The issue about this Galamsey issue that Gabi is claiming he's a lawyer. You can see that he just has book knowledge, but the home sense is not there. Because we all know that Gabi has spent the whole of his life trying to put Nana Akufo-Addo into a history. A history which will never be erased through good ways. Now, you are a lawyer to your cousin who has wanted to leave a good name. Now, that with his own sense, common sense, look at the waters. If assuming this kind of water is given to him to drink as a human being, will he ever drink this kind of water? And then again, him as a lawyer, as a professional lawyer, we don't have any doubt about that. But common sense will tell you that your brother or whoever it is has put his presence online trying to do good things. So does it give you any sense as a human to go and defend such a thing? They just came for their money. That's all. That's all. So when you look at this kind of situation, just look at the waters.
In whatever instance, I agree with you to a large extent. But from the standpoint of the law, just by way of education, no matter how severe the crime, even if it's murder, even they have representation. You know that.
So, my brother, with a common sense, so couldn't you have let somebody else do it? You can see how desperation they are. So out of the desperation, common sense is not there for them to even understand simple things. Now you are telling me that this man submitted a report for a whole lot of 2 years. So do you think if not because Calvin Taylor is able to expose this, do you think we have heard of this? So you can see that out of when a thief is stealing with double hands, he forgot about everything.
Right.
Now the food has choking.
Thank you.
Explain to Ghanaians. Because we are seeing the water. We saw what joy. People, may God bless you people. What people have done. We saw all the exposés. That's your guy. What's his name? Erastus, what's his name? He risked his life. Even they have a way to kill him, they have killed him. Because they just think money is everything on earth. Look at the water. My brother.
This is where we're going to have to cap off the conversation. We're grateful. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we're grateful that you took the time to join us on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo, and on behalf of the entire crew, Kingsley Otu, my producer for today, Ashilevi, Nicholas Yamwa, all of those, the camera people, Razak, Obed, and others, ensuring that I could be on your television this morning or on your phone, depending on what gadgets you used. We're grateful to you. Stay with us for Joy News Desk up next, and the AM show returns tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.